Some of you might be surprised that another part is even necessary to respond to WillyMacShow's deranged hit piece on me. Sadly, even with the prior parts totaling 5 hours, we are only halfway done. Naturally, lies from someone who cares nothing for the truth can be spoken very quickly and are therefore very numerous. The truth is far slower, which makes the process of showing the falsehood of lies a long, laborious one. But honestly, in my entire life, I have never seen someone as dishonest as WillyMacShow. Even I'm surprised how long this is taking. But in this video, you'll see examples like this, where Willy will claim one thing in DMs, yet then lie publicly contradicting himself. He will then panic and delete those tweets, but then after, I kid you not, make again those same lies he deleted, but in his video. Willy was so desperate to defame me. Not only did he deceptively edit my work to make it appear I claim something I don't believe, but he further worked to protect Hasan Piker from criticism. When there is profit in attacking Hasan, Willy will do it. But when there's more to be gained defending him, Willy will also do that. Willy has no positions, just angles he takes for self-gain. While part 1 covered the difficulties and ineffectiveness of any response to someone so dishonest, and part 2 showcased the insane depths of Willy's lying and dishonesty, part 3 will be a bit different. The main thrust of this section is that it was ultimately Willy's bruised ego that led to his delusional hit piece. While I don't touch on it much in this video, some additional context is that after Willy released his hit piece, he grew obsessed with the real me for the rest of the year. He spammed out anything he could about me, craving even a morsel of my attention as if it would sustain his life. All of this is insane. I have never seen anything like this from any other person on this platform, let alone my 33 years of life. This man went from clickbait videos about potential sex traffickers, terrorists, and pedophiles to spending his time whining about how he thinks a GT5 content creator is sad and angry too much. We haven't got to that point yet, but he sincerely acts like these things are of equal importance. For the last year, I've been pseudo-retired, taking the time to travel the world with my girlfriend Aitana as I wait for GTA 6 to release. Despite this, even before my response, Willy tweeted out that he wanted to make a second video on me, stating, "Lol lol 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 lol," as any person with the brain of a 12-year-old stuck in 2008 would. I cannot even imagine what insane delusional fictions this man is working to write for that video, as even I recently lamented that 2024 was one of the least impactful years of my career. Perhaps he would just spend all his time in a video reading tweets, acting like they're gospel around which the whole world spins. I say this of very few people, but WillyMacShow is a person who needs to touch grass. So with that now all out of the way, let us continue to dissect Willy's insane hit piece. So as you recall, back in November 2023, ChudLogic, knowing full well that I do not approve of reactions of my video, knowing full well that in DMs I told him specifically that I do not approve of what he does morally.
Do you know what? I quite like reacting to videos of people that I know don't like React content. It's always fun for me.
Knowing full well that what he does is illegal.
I, feel I do a fair use job, even though not legally, but ethically.
He still reacted to my video, so I struck it. In the same way that I've struck many reaction videos, positive and negative, as have I many other re-uploads of my content.
This all started in November of 2023 when Viper struck ChudLogic for reacting to his video. Now this is a big deal in the commentary space because a heavily critical reaction video getting struck down because the original content creator didn't like it is a threat to the nature of the commentary community, where the entire point is to criticize and engage in online discussion.
What did WillyMacShow do when this happened? Nothing. Did he watch the video that I struck down? No.
I need to watch the original work. I need to get the context of all of this information, because I don't even know if what you reacted to was fair use. You sent me it, but I haven't seen it yet.
As I've already covered before, the strike didn't go through initially because of YouTube's error, but when it did finally go through in March, what did Willy do? Did he make a video? No. Did he educate himself about the situation? No. But Willy just said this is a big deal, but all his actions show that he doesn't think it's a big deal. He doesn't care about it at all. In fact, a single copyright strike does literally nothing to a channel. There's even footage of ChudLogic being like, yeah, I'm just going to tank the 3 months. Whatever.
I'm just going to leave it. Tank the copyright strike. Yeah, it goes away after 3 months.
The reason it's not a big deal is because every single day, thousands of strikes go out. In my video where I covered the drama with ChudLogic, I talk about 2 other reaction videos that I struck down, which fit all the criteria of reaction videos that Willy wants on the platform. Does he mention them in this video? No. So little did Chud think it would be a big deal that even though he knows that I strike reaction videos, he still reacted to one of my videos.
Do you know what? I quite like reacting to videos of people that I know don't like React content.
So why is Willy covering it at all? Because I offended him. The second, to defend Chud, a person he was at least tangentially associated with. It's impressive for WillyMac to admit that he just reposts some shit sometimes that he hasn't looked into. Like, have some decency, self-respect, actually care what's true. That's not too much to ask. Again, showing how insignificant this all is, he didn't start the video talking about this drama. Because not that interesting. Guy who hates reaction videos and says he will strike reaction videos, strikes a reaction video from a guy who knew full well of that other guy's stances. That's not interesting. ChudLogic is basically a dude who saw a metal pole and said, wow, that would really hurt if it hit my face, and he ran straight into it. Without these two variables that I mentioned, Willy would be mocking Chud as the biggest moron on the goddamn planet. The biggest lolcow. Look at him, he's pathetic.
But he's enraged the beast that has been fucking locked away for a little while because nothing like this has really happened.
Now this is a big deal in the commentary space because a heavily critical reaction video getting struck down because the original content creator didn't like it is a threat to the nature of the commentary community, where the entire point is to criticize and engage in online discussion.
The vast majority of commentary is not done via watch party, and the commentary community existed long before this trend. His statement saying this is a threat to the commentary community is like saying that if a person uploaded Lord of the Rings and it got struck down, that'd be a threat to the movie review community. Obviously not. It's in the exact same way that every other form of media criticism exists and will continue to exist without the need to host watch parties of what you want to criticize. As we explained before about deterrence, a single instance of a negative repercussion happening for one person in isolation with very particular variables is not necessary to have broad ramifications for a wider ecosystem. In the same way that Nintendo has struck down countless videos, people still make content about Nintendo games though. Rockstar themselves have issued strikes against channels, taken down entire channels for particular content they don't like. I still make content on Rockstar games,
allowing them to strike any YouTuber who promoted money or RP glitches, and Sernando was one of the first to go. His channel was given 4 copyright strikes from Rockstar, though this initial ban wouldn't last long, and he would get his account back just over a month later.
Whenever you're using something made by someone else for any reason, there is always some inherent risk that that person may not like that, and there could be negative repercussions to that. In this particular instance, it's very easy to avoid a strike from me. Don't re-upload my videos. That's it. Showing how unnecessary it was for Chud to re-upload my video and to criticize me. When he received this strike, what did he do? Did he have to quit commentary, as Willy seems to imply? No. He made like a dozen more videos. He mentioned me like another 1,200 times. Obviously, Chud was not inhibited in his commentary at all by the need to not sit around hosting watch parties of my videos. Chud's own actions demonstrate that Willy is talking out his ass.
At this time, I had yet to see Chud's video.
Of course, Willy doesn't mention it here, nor does he mention it anywhere, but it wasn't really that he didn't look at ChudLogic's video then. He didn't bother looking at it for another 4 months. And despite this, talked out his ass non-stop.
But when Tom tweeted, "Hello, Dark Viper," people are saying you filed a DMCA takedown on a fair use commentary video by ChudLogic, hoping to get some kind of comment or clarification. I said I agree, especially coming from the fair use guy.
I didn't know that much about WillyMacShow at this point. I knew he had followed me for a year or two, liking, as I say, like 50 of my posts and replying to like 10 of them, whatever, in a very positive way. So I was like, this statement, calling me the fair use guy, is really strange. Because I've never been called in my entire life the fair use guy. But of course, as I found out about Willy since then, he will just say anything. Because while Willy's perfectly willing to lie, he doesn't want people to understand that he's a liar. Some of this I didn't bother to keep, and Willy has deleted a lot of these tweets, for obvious reasons. But this one was saved by Roko, where Willy says, also, a year or two earlier, he wrote a manifesto on React content where he drew parallels to rape. It's literally all he's known for in the commentary space. Again, he's saying this despite not having read it, knowing nothing about the situation, knowing nothing about my stances, knowing nothing about my content, and knowing nothing about my history at all. So all this was false. As Roko says here, the dumbest criticism of that document that is constantly regurgitated by those it critiques so they can easily evade the fact that they constantly steal content from others. At this point, I was still in this mode of, I shouldn't respond to any of this, these people seem very strange. While I didn't know anything about Chud before this point, seeing his response to being struck, his ranting and raving and freaking the hell out, even though the strike hadn't even gone through, calling me DarkViperAU HIV and stuff, I was like, yeah, I shouldn't go near this person with a 10-foot pole. No one should. But because of this one-way positive association that I had with Willy, and how strange this statement was, as I had never been called the fair use guy before, and I would have assumed Willy, of all people, would know at least something of my positions, I felt like DMing him. Like, I didn't think Willy calling me the fair use guy was the most extreme important thing in the universe. It was just really, really dumb. Dumb to the degree that it was funny, from a person who, you know, had followed me for so long, to be so ignorant of what I believe. Now, Willy is going to lie about these DMs later, but we should cover them now. In the DMs themselves, I explain why I DM'd him. So I start here by saying, I gotta say, the staggering irony of you going after Hasan right now for being uninformed and yet speaking confidently, then coming out with this take that suggests the absolute polar opposite of my viewpoint that I have repeated ad nauseum for the past 4 years is breathtaking, my dude. He says, I didn't speak confidently that you tried to falsely DMC Chud. I responded to a tweet agreeing that you should clarify. That obviously is a non-response to what I just said. So I continue and say, am I the fair use guy, Willy? Is that at all in any reality, even in the ballpark of who I am? He continues by saying, I think you are most infamous in the commentary space for being the guy who hates React content and says it isn't fair use. What I was trying to figure out at the time was whether or not Willy was unaware of my positions and therefore was falsely labeling me something that wasn't true, or he was simply unaware of like how English works. As it turns out, it was both. He continues by saying, which I don't even think your stance is that crazy. I'm simply saying you should address the Chud thing if you haven't and show receipts for why you struck it, if you even did. Now, to be clear, he has absolutely no idea what my stances are at this point.
Doesn't he live stream? Does he not react to anything?
He does mainly GTA content, I think. GTA speedruns and stuff like that.
Like Let's Play stuff?
And I continue to say, do you really honestly think that what my stance is actually matters? Willy's own actions in the future showcase the point I was making here. Obviously, I struck it because it was a reaction video because, I have an entire series dedicated to explaining why reaction content is immoral and that obviously I will strike reaction videos. That statement, of course, irrelevant to WillyMacShow. In his description, in this video, he constantly calls it a critical reaction video.
Because a heavily critical reaction video getting struck down,
as if the criticism in it was somehow relevant to the situation. In the same way his initial conversation with Chud, where he admitted to knowing nothing about me, my positions, or my content, he assumed that I wouldn't strike positive reaction videos.
Let me guess, you were negative towards him in this video, though.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, I was shitting on him constantly for being in retail.
Yeah, it's not going to be like, if it was a positive video, does he strike you?
Because again, he knew nothing about my stances. Even though years ago, I spent months detailing the most specific language possible, every little bit of minute detail in my positions. Willy months ago, didn't care, was still willing to mouth off on Twitter, and even months later, a few weeks before he made this video, still had not educated himself. He did not fucking care. So we can read my statement again. Do you really honestly think what my stance is actually matters? It doesn't. For those of you who know my stances and have seen these videos made by these con artists, how often are you just sitting there going, well, I've directly heard DarkViperAU say the exact opposite? To these grifters, all that matters is the most sensational possible thing. A guy who made an entire series dedicated to explaining why React content harms everyone in this ecosystem strikes a reaction video, and these idiots were not satisfied with that explanation. But of course, given that Willy expressed confusion as to my statement, I continued, how long have you been at this, Willy? And he says, a long time. I have no way not to be patronizing when I say perhaps not long enough. Have you taken a peruse of what is being said about me? It is a combination of things shown false with about 6 seconds of a Google search, things inferable as false with the same amount of time, or every single false thing I have directly addressed over my entire career already. Things I've already shown to be false or horribly misleading. Because remember, all these grifters were speaking after I had already spent literally months detailing all my positions on this topic. The information already existed. They just didn't care to look at it. And Willy, still even to this day, still doesn't care to look. I obviously can't be expected every couple of months when there's a new batch of grifters who don't care to do research for me to restate all my positions for them. That's just absurd. But despite knowing nothing about my positions, they were still perfectly willing to mouth off all over Twitter because they didn't care what my positions were. Willy continues, then it should be a really easy response. Why is WillyMacShow, some random person on the internet, deserving of any explanation from fucking anyone? He didn't get struck. For what purpose? What is the outcome you expect to see? Because obviously I have a long experience with making huge responses, big statements, explaining why everyone is wrong, and no one caring. Like even to this day, things I debunked years ago, WillyMacShow repeats in this video as if they're true. Again, it's why I don't think this response is really gonna matter, because WillyMacShow will just make another video lying again, and people who, don't care what I have to say or what the truth is will just go, oh yeah, very good, love these lies. Give them to me for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. So I try to help Willy understand by mentioning Hasan. I say, you are currently experiencing telling Hasan viewers what is true. How is that going for you? To be clear, I do not take at face value anything he's ever said on Hasan before. I have my own experiences with Hasan that tells me that he's a pretty bad dude. You can watch that main video I made on Hasan to see that. But Hasan could be entirely innocent of everything that Willy mentions in his videos because he is not, as I've demonstrated, a person who's honestly communicating the truth of any circumstance. He says here, to correct the record, it's going great actually. So I respond, oh, I'm surprised. You expect him to topple over for his viewers to abandon him? To which Willy responds, I'm getting an insane amount of love and followers, bro. Also, I get to make another video showing how he does it in real time. Easy peasy. So I'm asking how successful his response to Hasan has been for changing the minds of Hasan viewers. And Willy doesn't even register the question. All he cares about is himself. The only thing he judges success by is his own numbers going up. So me being in a situation where the only people who need a response are those who don't like me, don't care what I have to say, or like the creators that I don't like, obviously a response is not going to be particularly impactful. In the same way that my showing Willy is a liar is not going to be particularly impactful. Because obviously my viewers, or those who know of my positions, don't need a response. As I've said many times, there is no one who watches me, even for like a couple of weeks, who wouldn't go watch Willy's video and be like, this is entirely false. I was there for that, false. I was there for that, false. Entirely different from my experiences. But the people who need the response are not those who actually care or will engage. Anchoring bias, they're gonna defend what they first heard. Confirmation bias, they're gonna defend what they want to be true. Commitment bias, they've already taken a position, so they're gonna defend that position to the death. So why would I waste my time on something that was ultimately a very minor issue? The only reason I put any additional time into it at all is because the strike initially didn't go through and I was curious as to why. Even if it wasn't just for my own curiosity, it's probably a good thing for my business to know whether or not YouTube is just allowing re-uploads of your work now. And as I found out, no, they aren't. So again, I have no idea why this first one didn't go through. Willy lies later as to why this strike didn't go through, but we'll address that when we get there. So I continue to Willy. Yes, but you're having absolutely no impact on Hasan. Anyone who knows of me already knows enough to either give me the benefit of the doubt or knows enough of my positions on relevant matters to dismiss this. My statements therefore only matter to a crowd who have absolutely no reason to care what I have to say and just want more fodder to continue blowing themselves. To which Willy says, if that's your position, fair enough. But drama channels are going to look into it, and if you're lying, it's going to make things worse. Here, Willy is directly saying that he understood and accepted my position about why I wasn't making a public statement on the striking of Chud's video. Later in Willy's video, when he discusses our DMs, he leaves out this message so that he can claim he had no idea and that I was acting very shifty. Even Willy recognizes it's not going to be commentary channels looking into this, it's going to be drama channels. Because obviously this is just a normal thing that happens all the goddamn time. People re-upload videos and they get struck down. But drama channels need to make content out of whatever the hell they can. And like Willy, will fabricate or assume things to make things more sensational than they actually are. To which I continue to Willy, and what lies am I telling? Willy responds, hopefully none, but I don't know, I haven't looked into it. Willy moments ago was saying this was a huge deal for the commentator community. In DMs, he's like, I don't know, it's not really that important. And so unimportant, he didn't even look into it for the next 4 fucking months.
I need to watch the original work. I need to get the context of all of this information because I don't even know if what you reacted to was fair use. You sent me it, but I haven't seen it yet.
Everything is a lie if you start from incorrect assumptions. If I spoke nothing but truth, they would still be interpreted as lies. How? Facts are facts, especially when it comes to false DMCAs. Anyone who's lived just a normal life will tell you facts aren't just facts. If you've ever read a research paper, they give you all the results, then they give you the discussion, the interpretation of the results in light of other things that we know. People can do experiments, get results, and their conclusions from those experiments can be entirely wrong. So while many people would go, oh, wait a second, so Chud didn't get permission, knew what he was doing was illegal, personally had DM'd that person, and that person had told him no, then there's no issue here. Chud acted badly. But there'll be other people who go, well, I don't know, I do think Chud deserves to be able to re-upload anyone else's videos that he wants whenever he wants to. They could agree on the facts, but if they have the value that I should have to work for free for anyone on the planet whenever they want me to, even though we agree on the facts, it's not gonna matter. Like, Willy will be sitting there going, yeah, like sure, Chud didn't have consent and you actively said no, but that doesn't mean Chud can't do whatever he wants whenever he wants to. The facts don't matter, right? It's like how Willy had the assumption that I didn't strike positive reactions to my videos.
Yeah, it's not going to be like, if it was a positive video, does he strike you? You know, like.
When presented with the fact that I struck a reaction video, his conclusion wasn't, oh, he strikes reaction videos. Fucking obviously. His ignorance and his assumptions made him go, oh, it mustn't just be because of a reaction video, it must be because it was negative. He was given a fact, but he had a false assumption, so he came to a false conclusion. We continue here. What is a DMCA, Willy? He says, it's a law that allows people to protect their IP from people stealing it. When you say false DMCA, you don't seem to understand what you're implying. A false DMCA is when you don't actually have copyright ownership of some work. I do have ownership of my work. Fair use is an affirmative defense. It is a defense that you use after you've been found to violate copyright law. It is why it is called a fair use defense. It is the last defense you make. If I say my use of DMCA could not be false due to that I do own copyright over my material, this statement, despite being true, will be to some a lie, due to the belief that you lose copyright or that some content inherently is fair use content. People wonder why I write essays in response to things. This is the reason. People do not universally have sufficient prerequisite knowledge to be able to interpret statements correctly. Take, for example, the shutting down of my Rambles channel. I have talked incessantly about how busy I am, how little time I have for the channel, how difficult it has been to juggle that channel with my other channels. And the channel ultimately loses me money and I only really kept it around because I liked it. With all this prior knowledge, when I wrote a community post talking about the negative sentiments people had towards changes that I had made on the channel, people who knew nothing about me, nothing about my stances, nothing about the channel said, hey, look, DarkViperAU is closing down the channel because of criticism. Could not be further from the truth. Using my community post, specifically going to my community that already had this prior knowledge. And of course, when I made a follow-up Death of the Rambles channel video where I talked about things in full, did they correct themselves? No. Because the truth of the situation didn't matter. All they wanted was a false snapshot that they could present to generate some negativity and to bring some attention to themselves. While it may seem off topic, I want to include an interaction I had recently on Twitter. It kind of showcases how people like Willy lie, taking things out of context to imply things that are false. Not only does he constantly do it in the video that I'm responding to, but I guarantee you in any response, he would do it even more. So Raquiz says, ironic of you to accuse others of clickbait. I'm talking about someone else being a clickbait here. And this person points out that on my Reddit, my viewers said, hey, these seem kind of clickbait. Now the actual story of this is in my response, where I say here, I want to use this as an example of how lies about creators spread on the internet. This person says I am a clickbaiter because of the thumbnails on the videos telling of my discussion with Rockstar employees at a party and Aitana going on a trip to Europe. Out of the thousands of videos I have released, this person uses the 2 examples where I said, yeah, I agree, those went too far, and I changed the thumbnails. The events, rather than showing me as a clickbaiter, show that I do not have the goal of clickbait. I merely make errors as everyone does. As you can see here, for the first thumbnail, I said, sorry I was not awake. I did not approve the original title or thumbnail of the video. It was not meant to release. I should have made that more clear to people. I still, of course, apologize because that is still my fault. It is my error, but it was not a thumbnail I chose. For the second thumbnail, I said, sorry about that last title and thumbnail, guys. Went a bit far on that one. None of the topics seemed great for a title or thumbnail, so I figured a joke related to the topic of my girlfriend's month trip would be good. I've done similar clickbait things on rare occasions because I found it funny, but previously these didn't really play on your concern for my well-being as this one did. I didn't consider that at the time, so I understand why the joke was a bit much. My bad. And so I changed the thumbnails to remove the speech bubbles because they weren't directly discussed in the video, but I did still meet employees at Rockstar, so the thumbnail didn't change all that much. And here, rather than saying it's over, it was changed to for a month. Neither thumbnail is particularly amazing, but with the total context, you can see that the situation doesn't paint me as a person who desires to clickbait on a regular basis. I'm a person who makes mistakes sometimes, gets criticized, and then changes in light of that criticism, as any normal creator does. But people like Willy will just show this, and that's it. And the story ends. And he flicks to the next out of context clip, so no one has time to think, wait a second, we get the whole story here? Willy continues here. You know exactly what I mean. If you take down somebody's video that is fair use of your content, that is generally referred to as a false DMCA. You know this. Any DMCA is called a false DMCA by people, regardless of how justified. And this is shown in this fucking video with WillyMacShow.
The colloquial term for a false DMCA is when somebody strikes a video not because of their IP, but because of what the person has to say.
It is clearly well within my rights to take down any clips that I like that have not been used in a fair use way. But Willy previously referred to my doing that as abusive.
Struck critical reactions of him, and openly abused the DMCA system.
In this case, even Chud acknowledged that I had full right to take down his video. Didn't fucking matter. But it's important to note, in the vast majority of cases when a DMCA claim is filed, nothing happens other than the content gets taken down. Over the course of my 12-year career, I've received a few emails, each for different reasons with different resolutions, but you don't hear about these things, because very few people are the kind of psychotic liar that ChudLogic is. Throwing a hissy fit for months, knowing full well he's in the wrong and wanting retribution for his own fucking mistake. But even more than that, very few people have a pack of dishonest grifters like Willy who are willing to further those lies as if they were true, to spin a very clear-cut situation where Chud was obviously in the wrong as something more than that. As I say again, in any other world, Willy would be making 17 videos on Chud, laughing at him, how pathetic he looks, just spamming out this here DarkViperAU HIV, what a fucking child. And hey, there are very few people who are willingly going to associate with a known grifter, so it's not like Willy has a lot of people he can pick from to hang around with. If he loses Chud, as pathetic as he is, how many more people can he lose? We continue here. Did you by some chance watch those 2 short clips I sent you? And he says, I'll watch them now so I can better understand. You see, in a sane world, people would do research before mouthing off on Twitter. Willy does things in reverse. As I don't expect Willy to actually do any research, I decided to cover some of what I said in my video. As I would have said to Destiny when we spoke, people have no idea what fair use defends. Consequently, any use of DMCA for any reason will create some ire with people. I perhaps may have read more in regards to precedent on fair use than any person alive. I'm going to stop you right there. I was intentionally being hyperbolic, and I realized moments after that I should not do this, given who I'm speaking to, so I corrected myself. Sorry, not any person alive, any person related to this case. This doesn't matter. It doesn't matter how justified the claim or what basis it is put on, the response will be the same. Actions have to be made with consideration for the least informed of those who will hear you speak. All DMCAs are false to someone, in the same way that it doesn't take 2 brain cells to understand that I took down a reaction video, not because of its content, but because it was a reaction video. Despite the existence of hundreds of videos critical of me, the persistent belief remains that I took down a video because it was critical of me. In the same way that despite my literal years of statements on the topic, hundreds of pages, hours of content, to you I am the fair use guy. Truth does not matter. Just to be clear, in that statement, I am saying that I took down Chud's video. He continues by saying, you are the fair use guy because you are in my DMs arguing about fair use, saying you know more than any person related to this case. You talk about it a lot, that's all I meant. Obviously, I don't talk about fair use all that much, and that is not how that moniker works. The moniker of saying, this person is X guy is to say that a person is strongly associated with that thing. So I am the GTA guy. The guys in that Top Gear show, they're the car guys. You could call me the anti-react guy, right? But obviously I'm not strongly associated with fair use. Like I could use a sensational example. It's like if I referred to Willy constantly as the pedophile guy. Not because he is a pedophile himself or because he supports pedophilia, but because many of his videos contain him talking about pedophiles. There's an obvious reason why people don't refer to vegans as the meat-eating guys, despite that they argue about whether or not people should eat meat. Because calling someone the meat-eating guy naturally implies that person eats meat and loves eating meat and is associated with eating meat and supports eating meat. Willy's advocation for speaking this way would cause mass confusion, so on the basis of utility, we have to reject it. Like you'd find a picture of American World War II veterans and you go, oh, those are the Nazi guys, because they fought Nazis. And people would look at you confused like, they're not Nazis. Oh no, but they fought Nazis all the time, so they're the Nazi guys. Not a single other person, knowing of my positions or not knowing of my positions, has ever referred to me as the fair use guy until Willy. But here he is defending that anyway. But this defense here, you are the fair use guy because you're in my DMs arguing about fair use. Even if it was the case that I talked about fair use all the time, which obviously I don't, it still wouldn't mean that calling me the fair use guy would make any sense. Numerically, doing something a lot doesn't mean you're necessarily associated with that thing or that you're strongly supportive of it. Like I eat every day. I'm not the eating guy. Is every person on the planet the breathing guy? That's just not how that moniker works. And used in this way just causes confusion. At the time I continue here, in order to debunk this idea that because we're talking about fair use now, I'm the fair use guy, I say, I do not talk about fair use a lot. It is like if you said DarkViperAU is the Lego guy. And when I said, no, I'm not the Lego guy, you responded, why are you bringing up Lego right now in my DMs? Checkmate. I feel like you know what I mean and are just mad. I'm not trying to attack you. I respond, I'm not attacking you either. I guess I'm just bored and found the situation funny. Because understand, at this point, I had no animosity towards Willy. I'd seen like a few of his videos, like 2 on Vash and like 3 on Hasan. And obviously, I don't like Hasan. In the same way that anyone can be biased, everyone has blind spots, I'm not immune to psychological biases. It's why I keep saying I don't blame people for being fooled by this grifter. I talk about this all the time in my commentary content. The world is just so much more complicated. There's so much more information being thrown at you from left, right, and center. No one has enough time to dig down deep into every single thing that they hear. What I just wish is that people would be more cognizant that they haven't done that. Like I don't watch one video and just uncritically repeat what I hear in it as absolute facts, but people do that for Willy's videos. As I try to argue, the framing, the way that Willy speaks, what he does in his video, just showing random out of context clips, obviously shows what he's trying to do. Like he doesn't present himself as like a serious journalist or something. And hell, in the past, as I showed in that older video of his, he's told you what kind of content he likes to make.
A lot of people have made videos on Pokemon. Kind of the trendy thing in our genre right now are these video essays. It's long form content that's supposed to be fair and gives both sides, but they also annoy the shit out of me. All these 30, 40 hour, 4-hour long videos are just getting old. Just spit it out. I don't need these guys' full names, their first job, the background on their cat. I just want to see these people get torn into, and that just doesn't happen on modern day YouTube very often.
He doesn't like the nuance. He doesn't like the nitty gritty. Doesn't like both sides. He just likes videos that throw shit. He doesn't care about accuracy, doesn't care about truth, as is shown in his own actions. He continues, you claim to be an expert. I didn't call myself an expert. I say I know more than any person related to this case. Technically, the bounds of that statement would simply be me and Chud is a moron. He is, to bring back an old meme, a disingenuous, dense motherfucker who probably couldn't tie his shoes. That's what you've done in the past and literally right now in my DMs. That's why I consider you the fair use guy. I don't mean it as a slur. Not to beat a dead horse, but Willy is right now again claiming to know things about my past.
Doesn't he live stream? Does he not react to anything? Yeah, I mean, what kind of content does he even, like, I would love to see what his live streams hold.
I think the argument that it doesn't meet fair use in other countries is actually interesting. I again haven't looked into any of this at all though. So that's why my tweet is agreeing you should clarify. The reference to the other countries is obviously the overwhelming majority of people don't live in America. So why should the American legal system be the moral standards to what we think people should be able to do or not do with other people's content? That doesn't make any fucking sense. No one argues for it because as I try to argue in my series, no one actually gives 2 shits about fair use. All they want is the content that they think should exist to continue to exist and they label that fair use and call it a fucking day.
What was your legal perspective on it though? Like, what did you think about that?
So my legal perspective was that, you know, I would argue that it's fair use, but obviously it has to be determined in a court. And lawyers have different opinions on what they think, on which way they think this sort of thing could go. So I try to more focus on like, if it's harmful or not. At the end of the day, I don't really give a shit, right? I think React content is good. I think it's good for the community. I think it's good for the online space because it's people adding to the conversation. And that's entirely what commentary is about, what like political content's about.
On the topic of Willy arguing Chud's re-upload of my work is fair use, this is funny given that Chud himself wouldn't even make that assertion, but it is even more laughable given that Willy has admitted that he has trouble describing what fair use even is.
How do you explain to somebody what fair use is that isn't in this space? Like, you know, they're just an average viewer. It's kind of hard. It's just something you got to like take your time to learn about. And it'd be like if you watch a Turkey Tom video and then you watch the video Turkey Tom is basing it off of, would you say that those are the same videos? They're completely fucking different. right? And I would say the same when it comes to like a live streamer. If you watch like Destiny or you react to a video, I mean, Destiny is maybe not the greatest fucking example because there's times on his live stream where he doesn't say much, but yeah, I'd say like the few times I've watched you, like you've done a really good job reacting. Would you say it replaces the entire market for that video? You upload a video on my Keffel's thing. I wouldn't say that replaces the market. I wouldn't say that makes my video irrelevant. So it's hard to explain without just like saying the same thing over and over again, I guess.
As I say time and time again, people just call whatever content they want to exist fair use and give little more thought to it than that. I continue, I don't believe that is my argument. Although UK fair dealing laws are weaker than America's fair use laws, the law determines what I can and can't do on the basis of it, not what I can and can't advocate for. Again, drawing the distinction between what is legal and what should be permissible in society. If you haven't looked into any of this, on what basis do you call me the fair use guy? Ultimately, the only place where judgment can be made in regards to fair use is a court. Consequently, if you want a ruling, you need to go to one. How do you do that? By using DMCA. So you can see there, I'm very clearly asking him, prior to him calling me the fair use guy, what was his basis for doing so? To which he says, bro, you said word for word, I perhaps may have read more in regards to precedent on fair use than any person related to this case. That's you calling yourself the fair use guy. Like, I'm hoping without pointing that out, how dumb that statement is. Before you did a thing, why did you do it? Well, you see these things happen after. Like, I just don't understand why he couldn't just let this go. He knew nothing. He knew nothing, but he's just like, grabbing on, holding for dear life. No, it's true. And as we're about to see in this video, he still tries to defend this. I cheekily responded to this by saying, given the linear nature of which we experience time, a statement made later cannot have inspired the former. Which I know just sounds pretentious as fuck, but like, how do you take that kind of stupidity seriously? This message from Willy is also important to highlight because it shows Willy was well aware that I never actually claimed to know more about fair use than any person alive. This makes his false public statement and his further false claims in his hit piece claiming the opposite to be truly staggering lies. I asked about what you based that designation on. You made it prior to us speaking here in DMs. You implied you were ignorant of my work prior to speaking to me here. I therefore asked what inspired the tweet that caused me to be here in the first place. I could literally have fair use guy tattooed on my balls, and I could show you that tattoo. A statement being true does not imply that a person necessarily held it to be true for justified reasons. Although in this case, it is still false, that is irrelevant to my question. My statement there is saying, even if by some reasoning external to this situation, I would actually be the fair use guy, it still wouldn't imply that Willy was justified in making that designation publicly, because he obviously knew fucking nothing about me or my stances or my work or who I was or what content I made. I'm gonna go back to editing. Best of luck with Hasan. Thanks, Beast. Good luck. Because at the time, I was just editing, letting people splurge out on Twitter. It was only like a little over a week later when I realized that this wasn't stopping. Dozens of tweets, countless videos. It was further the absurdity of the situation where Chud was so clearly, painfully, obviously, in the wrong and aware he was in the wrong that I eventually said some minor statements on Twitter just to debunk the more really obviously false things. This was despite that at that time I had hired a lawyer to look into the situation for me. It was clearly an error because YouTube had no legal right to simply say what is or is not fair use. They were legally obligated to issue my DMCA, which is why when a human finally looked at the situation, it just went through like that. YouTube is not a perfect system. And it sucks sometimes that you gotta spend money on a lawyer to get justice served. You can also likely understand why Willy would later go on to exclude our final messages to each other. It does show there was no hostility and we were not engaged in some fierce battle where I'm dodging his questions or something, which is what he lies about in the future. So we now return to Willy's video, you now with an understanding of how ignorant Willy was when he made these statements, yet still he felt it necessary to defend them.
At this point, it wasn't even clear if Viper filed the DMCA. It wasn't filled out correctly and was full of spelling errors.
So here on the screen is the entire email that I sent. There are no spelling errors here. Furthermore, there is absolutely no evidence that anything was filled out incorrectly. It is extraordinarily easy to file a DMCA claim. In fact, most of it is already pre-filled in. At the top, you note the upload and the re-upload. You state your relationship to the copyrighted content. You can almost write anything here. I write owner, it seems to work. You say if you want to take it down immediately or give a 7-day notice, and if you want to prevent future copies. And then you tick some boxes. Again, not only have I done this hundreds of times, I show another 2 times in the video on Chud that I've done this and it works perfectly well. Since I made the claim against ChudLogic, I have struck 2 almost identical reaction videos, with one being accepted immediately and the other not. The one that was not accepted though, just required a basic follow-up email to YouTube, and then it too was taken down. So not only does Willy not have any evidence of spelling mistakes, yet he claims they exist. He further has no evidence that I made any mistakes in the filing of this DMCA, but he claims there are some. But more than that, he is personally aware of multiple instances where I filed this stuff correctly, showcasing that the last 2 is probably not true, but he does not fucking care. To be clear, I want to give some examples of the sort of content that I strike. Naturally, YouTube has prompted me to file endless takedown notices of re-uploads of my work. So some of these are just raw AI, just scraping my shorts and re-uploading them. I think that's why this first one has like an incorrect screen in front of it. How many women do you need to sleep with to max out your stamina? So this is just a direct re-upload, like nothing has been changed about it, but some others try to get around YouTube's copyright system.
You likely don't know that GT5 missions have hidden effects that make them easier.
So you can see it's my subtitles and they've just used like a voice changer to change my voice into that of a woman. It's why this stuff ends up getting picked up by YouTube's automated system on the back end, and I have a choice if I want to strike it or not. Haven't struck these yet, but you know, I will. I don't usually bother with things that have next to no views because there's just hundreds of them back there. It would take too much time. This next one, for example, I think...
There is one room in Michael's house that can...
So it's, rather than changing my voice into that of a woman, it's changing it to Franklin.
Suggest that it is a bathroom.
Weirdly enough, this automated system also puts like his name in the direct center, which I assume is because he wants to avoid the copyright system. This one as well is not changing the content, but it's changing like the format to see if it won't get copyrighted. Jimmy, my son. So it's like different music over the top and it's like put in a bit more. Because obviously while this stuff exists in the game, some of it would be very, very hard to replicate. Others, while you could replicate it, it would take time, like many, many hours, and you would need the right equipment and whatnot. So it's obviously a lot easier just to steal what already exists rather than attempting to replicate stuff. There have been successful channels that have spent a lot of their time replicating other people's videos. Mr. Beast sent out a tweet where he's like, there is a Russian channel that is actually the largest Russian channel that all they do is copy my videos, not re-upload them. Like Mr. Beast will release a video idea and this channel will just go, hey, that's a nice video idea, and they'll just make the exact same thing. So there is this channel that I may have talked about once before. It's got 3,500 subscribers, but it's had a few videos pop off. It alternates between GTA 4 and GTA 5, and it was debatable before whether this person was simply copying facts and glitches from my series. Two of these that I just saw now give away that is what they're doing. The biggest giveaway was this one, because what this is you can shoot in the corner here and blow yourself into the corner, putting on Trevor's power, and then it warps you outside. This fact and/or glitch was discovered by the speedrunning community, but it isn't faster. So it was known about and cared about for about 4 days. That's why it exists in my series, because I'm in-depth involved in the speedrun community, and I am a speedrunner, obviously. But no one else has any reason to care about this particular fact. The only place that exists on YouTube, I can confidently say, is in my Facts and Glitches series. Now, with that all being said, I don't particularly mind. These you can't do anything about because it is a bit scummy to watch someone else's video and frame by frame recreate it. But whether it's a copyright issue is far more ambiguous. I really just strike people who have just re-uploaded the entirety of my videos. Obviously, as I've said many times, I'm fine with clips or people, making response videos or actual commentary videos, but not, watch parties or people, again, re-uploading my videos. If you've ever used shorts for even a day, you're probably aware of this content stealing. Jax Films covers it all the time. My most successful shorts too get reposted with some guy at the top or in the corner or whatever. It's garbage. There actually is one significant difference between this DMCA and other DMCAs that I filed. This one came from my smaller channel. In fact, it's possible that the only reason why this was finally looked into by a human is because I used my credentials for my main channel. I only just now realized that as a possibility because I saw this came from the Ramble channel. Again, the only thing I know for certain is that YouTube fucked up, because it's obviously not standard procedure for YouTube to ignore lawyers and just send automated responses. Or to panically go, oh, I'm sorry, please ignore that previous email, we're looking into this. That's not common. With that all now being said, I think it's worth reading now what I sent to YouTube. As long as I, in good faith, actually believe I'm doing the right thing, then it isn't abusive, despite what Willy wants to claim. The reason the legal system exists is because people can disagree on things. I sincerely believe, and I have spent some time in my work arguing the case, that reaction videos of the watch party variety that ChudLogic creates are not fair use. Of course, if Chud got permission to re-upload other people's videos or license them and paid people some revenue, that's a completely different story. Fair use doesn't matter at that point. And in this case, as I say here, he does not at all meet the guidelines of fair use. So YouTube asked me some specific questions, and I responded. Hello, I've made particular study of fair use law. For example, I have read Hoss v. Klein and Where's the Fair Use by the lawyer Jessica Vogel that covers all the relevant precedent in fair use in America. I am perfectly willing to hire a lawyer and argue this in court. If you reject this dispute, I will merely circumvent you and serve him myself. Some people found it weird that I said that I'd be willing to hire a lawyer and argue this in court. But how could you possibly, in good faith, file a DMCA claim without showing some willingness to go to court to argue for it? Like, I think it would be a misuse of the system for people just to spam out DMCAs against a bunch of stuff and just hope that some of them hit and don't get bounced back. Like, DMCA is a legal claim, and the only reason I was going through YouTube is because it's just the easiest way to do it. And the only reason in the interim with YouTube's error that I didn't file it some other way is because I didn't have Chud's details. Which again, as far as I'm aware, even more goes against the safe harbor provisions that YouTube has. Because in this case, YouTube's error was specifically protecting copyright infringement, which is something they're not allowed to do. So I continue. To your questions, how much of your copyrighted work is used? I respond, all of it, every single frame. Not the bare minimum necessary for differentiated work. This is a watch party of my work. Had Chud edited his video to remove the parts that didn't matter, could arguably said to not be taking the heart of my work or something, that he was only taking specific parts, even if he had still done the watch party on his live stream, which would not be fair use, I probably wouldn't have struck the edited video on his YouTube channel. This is because while morally I still think that shouldn't exist, I'm not sure legally that I'd have any right to take that down. I'm not exactly sure where the line is as to how much editing is necessary for it to be a truly original differentiated work, but to criticize me for that is just a continuum fallacy. I can't tell you in a single sentence how much creative effort is required to change someone else's work into a differentiated product, but I know this is possible and Chud simply didn't do it. Because he's a lazy parasite. He has no interest in creation. He is just sitting around watching other people work hard to make money. They further ask, how is the mark of your original work affected by this use? I respond, there is no reason to watch the original if you have viewed the re-upload. All information and graphics have already been seen. Some people misinterpret this to say, like, as long as there's a single person in the universe who would still watch the original, then it's fine. That's not what this is talking about. Any re-upload of a work anywhere limits the exclusivity and therefore value of the original work wherever it's posted. And they do, to some degree, compete. If you've ever read the H3H3 case with Matt Hoss, H3H3 used 60% of Matt Hoss's video to turn a pickup artist video targeting people who wanted to pick up women into a comedy video for people who want to watch comedy. It is impossible to say that Chud's video was a differentiated work from my own because it was literally just a watch party of my video. It's important to note that the court doesn't just look at the impact of the one individual instance of copyright infringement on the original work. They also assess whether if this infringement became widespread, would that also be an issue? To phrase it in a different way, if I took no action against Chud, or if the court said what Chud did was absolutely fine, and people looked at that and said, oh, then this must be fine in general, and way more people did it as a result, would that be a problem for my work? And that's obviously the case. And you'll see many examples of this when I talk about other creators speaking out against reaction content. If I'm seen to be allowing this, and more people get away with it, that can inspire more people to do it. And that, of course, would be a problem, which would hurt Chud's ability to argue a fair use case if we had gone to court. It just needs to hypothetically be a substitute, and it's a further mark against it if that form of infringement becoming widespread would cause even greater problems. They further ask, does this significantly transform your original work, or does it serve the same purpose? The person rebroadcasted and re-uploaded my work with no knowledge of what was in it. It does exactly as my video does, communicating my thoughts on the topic. The re-uploader did not take the bare minimum to make something new. They merely created a watch party experience and gave their thoughts as they went. It so much does not transform the work that my work is predominantly all that is on screen, and my thumbnail is even copied in their thumbnail. They could certainly have seen my video and given their thoughts on it without re-uploading it in its entirety. There are many ways that Chud could have provided commentary on my video without violating fair use. He didn't do this out of sheer laziness. And that is, of course, all Willy is here to defend.
But when Tom tweeted, hello, Dark Viper, people are saying you filed a DMCA takedown on a fair use commentary video by ChudLogic, hoping to get some kind of comment or clarification. I said I agree, especially coming from the fair use guy. At this point, it wasn't even clear if Viper filed the DMCA. But if he did, stating why is a reasonable ask.
Willy, you're a random dude. Tom is a random dude. I'm gonna knock on my neighbor's door and be like, hey yo, I saw you bought a dog recently. Why? Willy is just so entitled. He acts like everyone on the planet owes him justification for anything that they do.
He was acting so shifty on stream about it.
Dark Viper, were you the one who filed a DMCA on ChudLogic's reaction to you? Just wanted to clarify if that was you and not an impersonator.
Nicholas, I know you're a historic star. That is true. Even 10 months ago, I knew enough about Nicholas the Oreo to know that he was a historic shitstar. Not wanting to talk to a drama channel is not being shady or being shifty. I believed at the time, and I still think it's true, that Nicholas the Oreo was an editor for Keemstar. And Keemstar was also in the chat. Keemstar tried donating to you and apparently donation got deleted. Or it didn't come up. I think it was the same time. This will be fun.
Is it true you false flagged ChudLogic? I'm not a poo starter, I'm a respected journalist covering a major story.
What timing? All right. Time for Max Payne 3. Willy's like, man, he was so shady not wanting to talk to the scummiest drama channels on the planet. That is like the most sane thing anyone has ever done, ever.
I reached out to Keemstar for comment for this documentary, but he declined, with his reasons cited as being because I was, quote, mentally retarded.
But as I stated in the letter to YouTube, my expectation was that this would go to court. And so why would I make public statements on something that's going to court?
I motto hope you're doing well, because I'm doing as good as to be expected.
It's an annoying thing, chat, about being so open about my life that when things happen that I'm not meant to talk about, it becomes very frustrating that I can't talk about them. Stuff happening. I've got one additional burden on my time that I can't talk about yet, but it'll come out soon. And it's thus far been an interesting experience. If you've ever noticed in any controversy on YouTube that involves a court, people tend to shut up. That is like the first thing your lawyer says. They say, hey, don't make any public statements about this because things could be taken out of context, or you could say things that might incriminate you or whatever, so just don't say stuff. But of course, Willy was not smart enough to infer that, or simply didn't care. It could be either.
He screenshotted my tweet and said, I gotta say, the staggering irony of you going after Hasan right now for being uninformed and yet speaking confidently, then coming out with this take that suggests the absolute polar opposite of my viewpoint that I have repeated ad nauseum for the past 4 years is breathtaking, my dude.
That's a true statement. It is really ironic. There are claims so obviously false that not even the most bottom of the barrel grifter was willing to make them. But both Hasan and Willy were both perfectly willing to say those lies.
With Viper, it's great if you react to a YouTube video.
He said reaction, like reacting to YouTube videos, is akin to rape.
He's not wrong.
Making this similarity even more funny is that Hasan openly said that he didn't bother to read my draft essay all those years ago.
I don't know anything about him. I've never watched any of his videos.
Willy seems to be quite similar, in that Willy either didn't read and watch my completed work on reaction content and instead relied almost exclusively on incomplete, outdated work, or he did engage in my completed work and specifically worked to exclude it in favor of outdated, incomplete information. Not exactly the same thing, but very similar.
He screenshotted my tweet and said, I gotta say, the staggering irony of you going after Hasan right now for being uninformed and yet speaking confidently, then coming out with this take that suggests the absolute polar opposite of my viewpoint that I have repeated ad nauseum for the past 4 years is breathtaking, my dude. He then messaged me 2 videos timestamped with him saying he doesn't think React content falls under fair use, but even if it did, he doesn't care.
While I did take one paragraph to point out that the React content I was criticizing is not protected under American fair use law, I further went on to say that even if it was, I wouldn't care. The reason I think React content shouldn't exist has nothing to do with America's antiquated ideas of copyright.
At this point, I was confused because what did I get wrong that was on the level of Hasan? All I did was make a tweet.
So again, we get into this problem where Willy doesn't seem to have a firm grasp of English. My criticism of him, as you just read, was not that he got something so wrong on the level of Hasan. My criticism was that he is obviously, very obviously, uninformed, yet he's speaking confidently anyway, something Hasan does all the fucking time.
And it was that I called him the fair use guy. Viper's talking past me a bit. When I'm calling him the fair use guy, I just mean he's somebody who argues about it, which he did in his document.
That is not what those words mean, or how they would be interpreted. Calling me the fair use guy implies that I have a strong association with fair use and that I support it to a significant degree, to such a degree that it distinguishes me from the wider population. That is obviously not true.
And it was that I called him the fair use guy. Viper's talking past me a bit. When I'm calling him the fair use guy, I just mean he's somebody who argues about it, which he did in his document.
One of the problems with Willy's lie about his intended meaning is that his intended meaning when put into the context doesn't make any sense. So let's change the fair use guy to what it actually means. Hello DarkViperAU, a lot of people are saying you filed a DMCA takedown of a fair use commentary of your work by ChudLogic. Seems to me like that is what happened, but was hoping to get some kind of comment or clarification from your end that could change this. Willy responds, I agree, especially coming from the guy who strongly supports fair use law. So this reply makes perfect sense in context. It's fair use commentary. Willy wrongly thinks that I'm a huge proponent of fair use law, so he makes this statement. But Willy wants to argue he wasn't misinformed. He wasn't saying something incorrect. It's merely that his words are being misinterpreted. So let us now insert what Willy says he meant. Hello DarkViperAU, a lot of people are saying you filed a DMCA takedown on a fair use commentary of your work by ChudLogic. Seems to me like that is what happened, but was hoping to get some kind of comment or clarification from your end that could change things. Willy responds, I agree, especially coming from the guy who argues for the irrelevance of fair use law. That response doesn't make sense given what Tom said. Willy self-admittedly knew nothing about me or my stances or my work. He admits this multiple times. I don't know why he couldn't just concede he got something wrong, rather than engaging in these mental gymnastics of rewriting language and history.
He cited Legal Eagle's video on fair use when making his own video.
Did you notice? He's doing it again. He had not seen any of this material of me talking about fair use or citing the legal eagle prior to him making his video. He's making the case that he wasn't wrong to do something, that if he now cherry picks things they learned about after the fact, that it would be justified. There are so many fallacies and psychological biases happening here that it's fucking insane. I just don't know why he couldn't just let it go. The reason why he was the first person to ever call me the fair use guy in the entire history of my life is because he was wrong to do so. He didn't, while being entirely ignorant of my work, crack into some really secret designation that means something.
All I'm saying here is he should give a statement for why he struck it down, not why he's a champion of fair use, which I think is how he's taking it.
We just went through my DMs. You just saw, we explicitly discussed that obviously Willy wanted me to make a statement about Chud and the strike on his channel. Is Willy lying here, or is he just very dumb? I don't know. I don't know.
You should address the Chud thing if you haven't and show receipts for why you struck it, if you even did. He then replies, do you honestly think my stance actually matters? Yes, it actually matters more than anyone else in this situation. You're the copyright holder.
So fucking what, Willy? After I made my statement, people didn't go, oh, we were wrong actually. DarkViperAU didn't strike it because it was critical. They just kept saying it anyway, because my statement does not matter. In the same way that all my statements on reaction content, my actual positions didn't matter to you either when you were making your fucking video.
He just doesn't act like a normal person. Everyone else is acting so reasonable.
All the people he's referring to, Nicholas Diorio, Keemstar, Tom Dark, ChudLogic, all of them, for weeks, threw a hissy fit. In every way conceivable. There was nothing reasonable about any of this. The normal thing that happens when a DMCA occurs is either the person goes, oh, I got caught for re-uploading that person's video. Fuck, I'll wait for 3 months. Or it's all private. Going onto Twitter and throwing a hissy fit about a DMCA that didn't even go through is not only not reasonable, it is entirely irrational. It is important to remember that Willy is making this video after 4 months. 4 months of ChudLogic digging into every aspect of my life.
I'm sure there's a lot more to be discovered. And don't worry, guys, I'm committed to this. I will be looking up as much as I possibly can of this guy, and I'm going to be finding every single thing he's ever done that's embarrassing, and I'll be broadcasting it and talking about it, you know?
Some people mistakenly think that ChudLogic, like a few weeks later, a few months later, just went goddamn crazy and then made 57 videos and a billion tweets. No, day one, Willy personally retweeted some of the unreasonable, unhinged, irrational bullshit coming out of especially ChudLogic. Like, how bad does your sense of things need to be that while being completely ignorant of any facts, you're retweeting some guy called ChudLogic, or Irrational Chad as he calls himself? He is well aware that he is lying here. And I can't tell you how strong Willy's association was with ChudLogic back then, but certainly by this point, Willy knew ChudLogic quite well, and was very well aware how unhinged and crazy Chud is and how he was acting because of this situation.
Everyone else is acting so reasonable, and he's so over the top.
ChudLogic firing out dozens of tweets. Every slanderous, defamatory thing he can possibly conceive of. Mentioning me 1,200 times just on his main channel. Probably hundreds more if you count his second channel. I'm over the top though.
I am a fucking unhinged maniac. That's right, motherfucker. I'm a fucking unhinged maniac. You've got me exactly right. That is what I am. I'm totally fucking unhinged, okay? I'm a total maniac. Ah!
Now, I'm aware Willy has made some statement to defend himself here. He, of course, defended himself while talking to ChudLogic again, because obviously he's not impartial, he's not unbiased, he's clearly defending a person that he knows. He, of course, was just not willing to voice that association when he made this video, because he's a grifter.
He acts like I endorsed or knew you said all this shit. I don't give a fuck that you made fun of him. Of course you are. He's going after your fucking livelihood. Like, we're talking about, like, Chud can't mock Viper after he literally tries to strike his channel down. What are we talking? Of course he can go after him. Of course he can call him a wretched retard and shit. I don't give a fuck.
Willy's implicit claim that it was my going after Chud's livelihood which made him unreasonable is obviously false. Chud was a lunatic for the 3 months before the strike went through. He was a lunatic during the 3 months where the strike was on his channel, and he was a lunatic for the 3 months after the strike left his channel. A strike that Chud himself admitted multiple times wasn't a big deal.
I'm just going to leave it. Tank the copyright strike. Yeah, it goes away after 3 months.
He's also been crazy for the entire time that he's been on the internet. If you look at his channel for 15 seconds, that is obviously true. And I don't doubt that Willy is well aware of that. Furthermore, Chud re-uploaded the entirety of my video knowing full well that I strike reaction videos. So I wasn't going after his livelihood, was I? Chud was at best intentionally running into a brick wall for fun. Willy's words and actions ultimately just highlight that again, he doesn't care about so-called unhinged behavior. He just pretends to so he can make content for money, while hypocritically he associates with some of the most unhinged people on this platform. So basically, if you ignore all the ways that Chud acts insane, irrational, unhinged, demented, psychotic, then he's perfectly reasonable. It is the same justification for Willy's entire video. If you ignore all the arguments I make for my position, hey, I make no arguments. If you ignore the totality of reality, cherry pick small aspects of it, and invent others, then hey, you actually find the truth, or at least what Willy wants to be the truth.
He then hits me with, how long have you been doing this, Willy? At this point, I realize I'm talking to a crazy person. He's not directly answering anything. I'm just here for the ride now.
This man had followed me on Twitter for about a year and a half, was perfectly knowledgeable of how I spoke. And when I asked him a question and he showed confusion, I asked a follow-up question to try to understand why he was confused. And he says at this point, he knew I was crazy. Even in the most mundane situations, Willy just can't help but lie. If you look at the 3 DMs he sent me at that point, he had yet to ask me a question.
He states, I have no way to not be patronizing when I say this, perhaps not long enough. Have you taken a peruse at what's being said about me? I don't care. I just want to know if you struck the video.
We'd been talking for like a minute at this point, and he hadn't asked me that yet. Like, understand, my first message to him was at 5:06. His reply was 5:10. The DMs that he is reading happened at 5:15. This is the totality of our conversation up to this point. Willy's talking up these DMs as if we're engaging this long-term battle where I'm just dodging questions left and right. He has yet to ask me a single question, and I was simply trying to explain why making a public statement wouldn't matter.
All I wanted to know is if Viper struck Chud and why. He's being so indirect. If Viper just said, because I don't think it's fair use, that would have been a good enough reason for me.
Allow me a second to break down how stupid of a statement that is. It's like if Willy asked me, hey man, why did you walk to the shops? And I responded, because I have 2 functioning legs. That is a necessary prerequisite to walk to the shops, but that can't possibly be a motivating factor that led to me to do so. In the same way that if I strike something, yeah, you can infer from my positions that I must have thought that was against fair use, but that wouldn't be the reason why I struck it. Obviously, I don't hold a blanket position that everything against fair use should be struck immediately. There is content right now that I make that I don't think is fair use. I don't think it should be struck down. Although, just to clarify, in regards to my content with GTA 5 and Rockstar, their TOS does allow for the making of this content. Not only does Rockstar promote and support the kind of content that I make, I know people at Rockstar, having discussed with them, that Rockstar is okay with the stuff that I make. But yeah, eventually, I talked to the Rockstar guys who were there. There was 2 of them. One dude, his name was Hudson, and I met him in PAX 2019. And so you can go back in my very old rambles and I talk about my experience meeting with him. So I talked to him again that night, and it's like we just picked up the same conversation that we had in 2019. And it was nice. He's like, yeah, I love your pacifist series and a lot of the content that you make and stuff. And he says they keep track of a lot of what creators are doing and stuff, and they really like the stuff we did with LA and the Davey meme and reenacting those scenes and stuff.
All I wanted to know is if Viper struck Chud and why. He's being so indirect.
Again, what indirectness? It had been 5 minutes and he had yet to ask me a question.
If Viper just said, because I don't think it's fair use, that would have been a good enough reason for me. Chud's even been reasonable about it.
Again, Willy ignoring all the incredibly irrational and unreasonable things that Chud was doing at this time, and even that he said during this live stream.
But what's funny about it is this little fucking bitch, this vest-wearing bitch homosexual dude, well, that's a joke and satire, to be clear, okay? I say that as an insult, not because I think being gay. I love the gays. The gays are brilliant, okay?
Chud's even been reasonable about it.
How is the market for your original work affected by this use? There is no reason to watch the original if you have viewed the re-upload. All information and graphics have already been seen. So, I think this is arguable as to whether that's the case, because, I don't know. I'm willing to kind of accept that, yeah, it is obviously the full 9-minute video that he uploaded. But, like, what with the way it's been transformed and the way that I'm commentating and things like that, is it really like a replacement to the original work?
Any person interested in fairness, balance, nuance, journalism, what have you, would at that point present me countering this point. He just leaves this unchallenged. Willy, of course, perfectly willing to dig back 7 years to me being sad and frustrated to show any random out of context clip. But Chud, guys, look how reasonable he is. Please ignore the literal mountains of evidence of Chud going fucking crazy and being the most unreasonable person alive. If you think about it for like 15 seconds, even this clip shows how unhinged and crazy ChudLogic is. This man received a legal document. What was the first thing he did with it? He went on live stream and read it. He was doing this when he had not even received the strike. Chud can't create anything. He's not a creator. He doesn't have anything else to do. The only thing he can do is whine.
But he's bouncing all over the place, relating it back to my drama with Hasan, that people should give him the benefit of the doubt. He then asked me if I know what a DMCA is, and he says he can't file a false DMCA if it's his content in the video.
In this instance and some others, Willy does remove certain DMs and will often specifically focus on some in order to change the meaning of what we're actually talking about. Remember previously, Willy lied and said he was unsure whether I knew that he wanted me to respond to Chud. That lie would be hard to maintain if he showed the DMs where he said that it should be a really easy response, and I asked, for what purpose? What is the outcome you expect to see? Obviously, the response we're talking about is to the ChudLogic situation, so obviously I wasn't confused. And of course, Willy is very quickly skimming over the DMs here, where he admits that he doesn't really care if he impacts Hasan viewers. He just wants people to watch him more, showing his clear interest. He doesn't care about changing minds. He doesn't care about any of this. He just wants to make videos that get views.
Relating it back to my drama with Hasan, that people should give him the benefit of the doubt.
And of course, just reading the screen, I do not say that people should give me the benefit of the doubt. Anyone who knows me already knows enough to either give me the benefit of the doubt or knows enough of my positions on relevant matters to dismiss this. That isn't me saying people should give this to me, I'm saying they will give it to me.
He then asked me if I know what a DMCA is, and he says he can't file a false DMCA if it's his content in the video.
I didn't then immediately ask him what a DMCA is. He skipped a bunch of messages between us because they are the ones that showcase my mentality that I thought giving any sort of public response would just feed the drama channels. Again, Willy is also cutting off a DM here where he states that he accepts my position as valid, so he knew exactly why I wasn't speaking publicly. A very common and normal stance, which is potentially why Willy felt he had to skip over it.
He says he can't file a false DMCA if it's his content in the video.
This is true. A false DMCA is like if you pretend to be someone else and you file a DMCA to take something down. We've seen this many times over the course of the history of YouTube. An abuse of DMCA is when you don't think you have a valid claim, that you think you would lose a lawsuit, but you file a DMCA anyway because you don't think they'll respond or they don't have the money or what have you. Like you're abusing the legal protections for copyright, even though you don't sincerely believe it should apply in your case. I understand this is not particularly important, but understand these are just random DMs that I was firing off while taking a break from editing. Keep in mind at the end, Willy says, I'm not trying to attack you. And I say, I'm not attacking you either. I guess I'm just bored. This wasn't some inquisition. It wasn't two people who hated each other, like going at each other's throats. It was just a casual conversation that Willy for some reason feels it necessary to misrepresent.
But again, he's arguing semantics. He knows what I mean. The colloquial term for a false DMCA is when somebody strikes a video not because of their IP, but because of what the person has to say.
Right, and as we found out, when I came out and said, yeah guys, like, as you know, I have spent years saying reaction content is bad for the platform, terrible, and, you know, shouldn't exist. People said, yeah, but like, that makes too much sense. Fuck you, you took it down because it was a critical video. And I was like, all right, well, I tried. And to be clear, Willy again skips over some of the DMs. Like the DMs weren't unrelated. This is multiple DMs communicating one thought, and he's cutting it off halfway. I don't know if he thinks it's easier to argue against, but I go on to say, if I say my use of DMCA could not be false due to that I own copyright over my material, this statement, despite being true, will be to some a lie, due to the belief that you lose copyright or that some content inherently is fair use content. People wonder why I write essays in response to things. This is the reason why. People do not universally have sufficient prerequisite knowledge to be able to interpret statements correctly. Perhaps he removed these because it gave a justification as to why I'm long-winded in DMs sometimes. It's just really hard to understand why he's so dishonest in so many places that, like, I just don't know. I don't think it helps him being dishonest like this, but he still doesn't.
The colloquial term for a false DMCA is when somebody strikes a video not because of their IP, but because of what the person has to say.
And I further want to add that I think Willy is inaccurate in how he says that false DMCA is used colloquially. When people say there is a false DMCA, they are just speaking from their own personal assessment as to how they think that tool should be used. A person can call a DMCA false for fucking anything. It doesn't necessarily relate to a person taking down a video because of what a person said in that video. That can be one potential motivation, but it's wrong to say that it is the colloquial use of that phrase.
He then goes, people have no clue what fair use defends. Consequently, any use of DMCA will create some ire with people. If you struck down Hasan or XQC because they got up and left, or a streamer who didn't add anything, nobody would care.
This man is seriously arguing that if you tried to strike down some of the most popular creators on Twitch.tv, no one would care. None of the hundreds of thousands of parasocial viewers who watch each and every day as Hasan and XQC do that and have no problems with it and think it should exist anyway, none of them would care. You wouldn't think the creators in Hasan's little bubble wouldn't start going, this is politically motivated. This is just racism, or this guy is alt-right or in the manosphere, or extreme right, he's a Trumpist, he's a crypto bro. I mean, these are lies that people in Hasan's orbit have said about me, his viewers and creators, and I haven't struck him. I've just criticized him. Obviously, there's a huge cohort of people who don't think you should DMCA anything, anytime.
No, they made the choice. The choice is like, I want this video to be seen by as many people as possible. I guess you could DMCA them, but that would be really fucking stupid to do.
Like if I struck Hasan, people would say, yeah, but like, man, Hasan has said he'll take down any video. You just got to ask. Why are you using this legal tool to take down a video when you could just ask Hasan? And you get criticism for that. And to be clear, I've addressed this kind of stupidity in my actual videos on reaction content, but Willy is insanely delusional here. And that is most evidenced by these people are very popular. People watch that content and therefore are okay with it. And therefore, if you tried to take it away, they would obviously have a problem with that and be angry. And of course, Willy is assuming that the person who got struck would have some reason to communicate the truth of the matter, the facts of the case. Even if you struck a video where Hasan wasn't there for 50% of the time, what would Hasan do? He'd be back there going, man, these fucking Nazi terrorists, Israel sympathizing, alt-right losers attacking my channel. Guys, this is the very thing I talked to you about. They're trying to silence me to prevent me getting out the truth of the matter. You remember JXE who made a video saying, hey Hasan, your reaction was not even really reaction to my video. Like, you weren't barely even there.
And when I found out that he'd reacted to the video where I just roast a weird house, I got pretty excited. Let's take a look at the reaction he served up to some of my content.
I'm gonna be back in 1 second.
Of 8800 Blue Lake Road. The first 3.5 minutes of my video were enjoyed mostly by Hasan's chair and his chat. Although apparently for the duration of this, Hasan was watching the video on his phone, so he can see everything that his chair is seeing. It's not until we're 4 minutes in, which just to be clear is about 1/3 of the way through the video, that Hasan decides to add his first piece of commentary.
I feel like it's gotta be like it's gotta be, I don't know, like someone who has a disability or something, right?
How many times did Hasan falsely label Jay as a Nazi? Like 12 times that I know of. Like, I'm sorry, while I have tried to argue from my perspective here, Willy and I just have a very different perspective on how people act and how social media responds to people using DMCAs. I mean, hell, so does Linus. I mean, I have had this exact same conversation with other creators who also agree with my perception.
Maybe it takes a chain reaction of rights holders finally just getting fed up with this and going after prominent streamers in spite of the fact that they're going to face significant community backlash. Like, I mean, you wouldn't know anything about that, but that could be a total thing.
That doesn't mean we're necessarily correct, but I think we've seen enough things tangentially related to this to assume that Willy's perception of things is likely false. More than this, he is again reaching into this universal consensus where everyone agrees in this magical fairyland that he never argues for, but you get the idea.
People are mad because you took down a 35-minute critical reaction video of your 9-minute video.
That is not why people are mad. I gave 2 examples in my video on Chud, where I struck down videos that were also like double the length of my original video. They were taken down by YouTube immediately, no hassle. Where's the outcry? No one cares. Even the most prolific reactors, from Asmongold to Hasan, will say, look, if a person says, don't react to my content, I won't react to their content. There's not enough to actually get angry about here. I think if more people were aware that Chud knew I didn't like people reacting to my content, and I specifically told him that I didn't approve of what he was doing, that people would care far less. Because I think the vast majority of any sort of outcry or outrage is because of straight lies. In the same way that Willy has fabricated a bunch of bullshit, Chud fabricated a bunch of bullshit, Nicholas fabricated a bunch of bullshit, it's just a bunch of drama YouTubers trying to stir up some drama where there isn't really any. There's no controversy here. What Chud did was in violation of fair use, fucking obviously. And to be clear, as I've established before, people still get outraged at reaction content, even if there's significant watch time added. The creator spends 6 months making a highly edited, highly researched, amazingly produced hour-long video, and the reactor just sits on stream and pauses it occasionally. And sure, they could sit there and pause it and add an hour of yapping, their hour of slop with the hour of highly edited stuff on their YouTube channel, and some people will still find that absurd. I can't tell you how many, but obviously some people are gonna find that disgusting.
After some of these channels reacted to my latest video and videos made by a few other creators, the debate started all over again, which is what this question is referring to. It's neither ethical nor necessary to feature the entirety of someone else's work, just to provide commentary on that work. If movie review channels can function without playing the entire movie, then so too can reaction channels.
It's obviously the case when you're just watching something and yapping off the top of your head and pausing every once in a while to read chat that you can make additional watch time, because it's just slop. There was like a full 5 minutes of Chud's re-upload that's just him staring at the screen, saying nothing, and reading his chat. It just makes you realize that truth doesn't really matter. It's
Chud covering circa Twitch ban. Oh, Kick ban. What, he's been banned from Kick? Doesn't surprise me, because his streams have been more and more unhinged as time has gone on. But yeah, we can have a quick look at that.
It's just all nonsense. This was not some creative work. Chud does not sit all day watching YouTube videos because he's getting hard into that criticism or whatever. When he said he wanted to milk this situation with me as much as he could because nothing had happened recently, it's not because he felt like he had a lot to add or to contribute or there was any real reason to this, just because he wants money. In the same way that Willy will outright say, he's not making another video because I've done anything wrong or he has anything really interesting to say. He's making it just because he wants more content. Every aspect of these drama farmer grifters is entirely disingenuous.
Viper's critique of React content is that they're taking the hard labor of others and passing it off as their own, not adding anything worthwhile.
That is not at all my criticism of reaction content. Even if they add something worthwhile, it doesn't matter to my critique. We can have that worthwhile commentary without doing unethical things. Both in the sense that the negative market impacts moving the value away from creation towards simply stealing other people's work, and also of course the greater likelihood of spreading misinformation. In no way am I arguing that reactors are passing off other people's work as their own. It is very clear by it being a reaction video that someone else has done that work. Some other things people stupidly call reactions, like commentary content, can be fair use, but not watch parties. How skilled you are at pressing the pause button and having a discussion with your chat is entirely irrelevant.
Chud reacted to a low-effort 9-minute stream segment of Viper being salty that Jax Films was getting praised for criticizing SSSniperWolf. Chud reacting to and making fun of Viper took more time and effort than Viper's original video.
Everything there was false. Reacting is obviously easier than just standard commentary. It didn't matter how incoherent or stupid or not knowledgeable Chud was, because he had the flaw of my content. Like if you remember, SSSniperWolf wasn't mentioned in my first essay, and I had no intention of mentioning her in it. And even Charlie said, why is SSniperWolf not mentioned here? And I said explicitly, it's because technically what she makes is after the facts. And I said, maybe I will make a video on SSniperWolf.
Wait, what? What does that mean?
If my commentary is bad, again, I just don't have a video. I have to put effort into meeting that threshold. If Chud knows nothing, if he's incoherent, he still has a video.
I don't even understand what he means by that. It's happening after the fact. Yeah, all React content happens after the fact. Like XQC's React content is after the fact, after the video's been made. Oh, because it's not a live reaction. What difference does that make? Why does that make a difference? How is that a different I don't understand the difference between reacting to it on stream live and doing an edited video where you've literally just put together a bunch of different pieces of content to make a video of your own when you're not really adding anything to it.
The baseline for commentary is that you have to know enough about something to make a video. The baseline for reaction content is you have to know how to press the play button. So in general, Willy is wrong, but in this specific case, he is misrepresenting my content. And I don't just mean that Willy lied about what was in my YouTube video. Obviously, I wasn't salty about Jack being praised for his criticism of SSSniperWolf. That's not at all what I said in that video. So I like Jack, I like what he's doing. I think it helps me to a degree, takes heat away from me. I do think the changes that he wants to implement in the platform are good. I think his crusade is good. I think the content he's making mocking SSSniperWolf is funny and informative in many ways, but I don't see clips being brought together as being on the same level as ripping off an entire creative work in the same way Asmongold does. Just sitting on his ass all day, spamming out as many as possible, releasing 10 videos a day. But you can see these statements I'm making will make me unpopular. You come out and say SSSniperWolf's a terrible person. It's like, yeah, tell us what we don't know. You know, write 8 hours of content, 200-page essay or whatever, explaining in intricate detail how people like Asmongold, XQC, Charlie have just been exploiting people massively to maintain themselves. Like, you say that, people aren't gonna like you. What Jax Films is saying is stuff that the overwhelming vast majority of people agree with. Or at the very least, even if they don't agree with it, it's not likely gonna rustle their jimmies. It's not going to attack some belief that they have about creators or the platform or what should be here. My viewpoint is not widely understood, and it's very hard just to condense into a soundbite. But Jack's campaign of credit the creators, very simple thing to explain. It's something that no one's not going to get behind. And the reactors themselves are like, fine, I'll put a link in the description. I'll tell my editors to put a link in the description. That costs me absolutely nothing. I'm not going to lose viewers to that. The click-through rate through that is nothing, and I can just keep spamming out other people's videos. But I think he's asking for something that is more realistic, which is to say, hey, at least credit the people. So how my Rambles content used to work is I have many different sections where people can ask me questions or put in stories that I should look into and research before I speak about them on stream. So at the beginning of my video, you can see that I'm responding to a question that's like a wall of text. It's not something I just took from Twitch chat. I put the time in before the stream to get questions that I wanted to ask in my Rambles section on my live stream. And of course, I knew because I was going to be answering that question that I looked into more things so I would have more to say for the question. The only difference between what I produced and a normal commentary channel is I happened to record it live. It is the the exact same footage I would have recorded if I was off stream. So after I'm done recording footage for a Rambles video, it gets put into my hard drive, which auto syncs with my Dropbox, which is then downloaded by an editor. The original stream footage is then, edited. Things are removed, assets added. This takes considerable time. As the end video was around 10 minutes, I probably would have paid like $125 to the editor to get it edited. And depending upon when the thumbnail was made, it was probably around $50 to have that made too. I would do my best to catch mistakes, or if I thought something else needed to be added, I would say, hey, can you add X, Y, and Z? Or I would do voiceovers and say, hey, I don't think I clarified this enough. This is what I mean. 3 different people worked on creating that video, and it cost like around $200. And while Willy couldn't just by looking at it know the process by which it is made, it is obviously an edited video. It has a lot of assets added into it, zooms added, there's a lot of cuts and stuff. All this takes time. While Chud's video is wholly unedited, and it's just him sitting in a chair for 35 minutes. It doesn't add assets, it doesn't cut out dead air.
Someone mentioned this earlier with this guy as well, about his GTA stuff. What's the deal there? What are we saying about his channel is what?
It is just a pure stream rip, which is what Willy is trying to imply my work was, which it obviously was not. So how does this work in Willy's world? Does Chud give me a check for $200 and I just work for free? Or does he pay my fee for making him a YouTube video for his live stream? Because that'd be thousands of dollars. Oh, wait a second, I know how this works. I, as the creator, have to pay to fund the reactor. I put in all the effort, I take upon all the cost, I take upon all the risk, and Chud gets to sit on his fat fucking ass and watch me work hard. Like every reactor, which Willy, of course, tries to defend because he is a dishonest liar. What SSSniperWolf does is orders of magnitude more creative, or at least what editors do, than what Asmongold does.
He is just creating these distinctions where no distinction exists because he wants to shit on the streamers more. That's my interpretation of this. I don't see any other way of interpreting this, because you can have criticism of Asmongold's React stuff, and there's some good arguments against it and whatever. But like, Asmongold does say a lot of stuff when he's watching these videos. That doesn't mean legally he's justified, because I don't know if that is the case. But the idea that like SSniperWolf is more creative, I don't know. Has he even watched the fucking SSniperWolf video?
In my video and many other places, I say that I don't like SSniperWolf and she's shit. Her content is shit. It's garbage. And even in the clip that is shown, I don't say that SSniperWolf is more creative than Asmongold. I say her editors are. Which is true.
And then the third time you drop it, it like completely shatters into a million pieces. That's all I could take.
At least in the time that I was assessing them, the vast majority of videos that were thrown up on Asmongold's channel were just pure stream rips. Like, we call them Asmongold's editors, but they weren't doing anything. Sitting on a chair and giving off-the-cuff thoughts isn't creativity. I will state it again explicitly because it seems as though Willy has removed it specifically to make it seem like I'm defending SSniperWolf. I think SSniperWolf's content is shit. But technically, what they have to do is aggregate a bunch of different clips all into one place. Then like poke SSniperWolf to say a bunch of things and then edit it together in some sort of coherent package, usually adding some sound effects at least, or some edits in some cases, even if they're garbage. And that all takes time and effort. While they both are garbage, the easiest way to see this distinction is by going to SSniperWolf's channel. She has uploaded 6 videos in the last 7 days. On Asmongold's channel though, he has uploaded 24, 25, 26 videos. Because his videos require less creativity, require less effort, he can spam them out far faster. Because he is more reliant on the creativity and effort of other people than is SSniperWolf. Again, both garbage. Both shouldn't exist. In my work, I do not spend much time drawing distinctions on what I think is a good use of other people's clips and what isn't, because it wasn't the focus of my work. When you write a critique of something, there has to be some borders on your critique of what you want to talk about. You can't just talk about literally everything forever. An important question now is, why is this clip of Chud included here? Why is Willy lying about my video and including these clips that misrepresents my positions?
But the idea that like SSniperWolf is more creative?
There is no objective standard as to what is or is not creativity. I know I've said this many times, but I feel I need to say it again. In just the playlist alone about my views on reaction content, that shit like 7 hours. If you include all my rambles that are tangentially related to this topic, there's probably like another 10 hours of content. Of all the things I said, some of which is based on days, weeks, months of work. Huge spreadsheets of data. Things I fine-tuned every single word that I wanted to say perfectly in a script to argue my point as well as I could. All of this did Willy ignore in favor of arguing about this point, whether the shit that SSniperWolf makes is better or worse than the shit that Asmongold makes. Who wins in that literally does not matter to anything.
But the idea that like SSniperWolf is more creative, I don't know. Has he even watched the fucking SSSniperWolf video.
Doomer Media gave a great take for why this point makes no sense, even using Viper's logic.
Looking at DarkViper's original argument, there is no ethical justification for striking Chud's video. It is not parasitic, it is not exploitative, it is not lazy, and it is not a market replacement.
Funnily enough, I actually wrote an essay debunking the entirety of Doomer's video. The only reason my video debunking Doomer didn't come out is because by the time I finished writing the script, at that point I got doxxed, and I was like, better step away from all these weirdos and kind of assess what's going on in my life. You know, when that happens, you kind of have to take a step back and figure out what's going on, and it just never seemed prudent to release it at that point because it is a small video after all, and just very poorly argued.
It is not parasitic, it is not exploitative, it is not lazy, and it is not a market replacement.
Doomer is not presenting an argument here, he is stating a conclusion. Doomer having reached this false conclusion and stating it in Willy's video isn't an argument for anything, no more than if he found some guy who believed the earth was flat and had him state that in the video. It doesn't matter. With each of the points that Doomer has on the screen, I've already largely explained why these things are false, but if you want more, I will link the script down below. This isn't relevant to fucking anything. It turns out linking that script is kind of pointless now because Doomer has privated all his videos. In fact, as far as I can tell, he seems to have abandoned the internet. But again, Willy finding someone else to state conclusions that he agrees with isn't an argument for fucking anything. I mean, he could have had Doomer say those things and then present some arguments, but of course, Willy is both too stupid and lazy to do that, and certainly trying to make arguments to defend false positions is kinda hard.
I just don't know anybody who watches Chud's video tearing into Mad and views it as a market replacement. If I'm wrong, he should be able to show the damages.
Sometimes when Willy speaks, I have to remind myself that he's not 12 years old. The amount of people who Willy personally knows who believe something doesn't dictate how many people actually believe that in the entire world. If my video got deleted tomorrow and you still wanted to watch it, you could go to ChudLogic's video and watch it right there. It can act as a market substitute. It is the same video. And again, fair use doesn't simply assess the market impact of that one instance, but the possibility of this becoming widespread as a phenomenon. So for example, from the US Copyright Office, speaking of the fourth factor, effect of the use upon the potential market for or value of the copyrighted work. And again, just value alone, I lose exclusivity, which is a loss of value. Here, courts review whether and to what extent the unlicensed use harms the existing or future market for the copyright owner's work. In assessing this factor, courts consider whether the use is hurting the current market for the original work, for example, by displacing sales of the original, and or whether the use could cause substantial harm if it were to become widespread. So we're not simply looking at just Chud re-uploading my video, but what if everyone acted like Chud did and made endless reproductions of all of my videos fucking everywhere? So keep in mind, as I've said before and shown, I struck Chud's video when it had 1,000 views. In regards to copyright infringement, it is still infringing whether or not damages occur, because taking down content can be done defensively and you don't have to show damages. But again, I don't think the US Copyright Office determines what we should or should not support. Basically, what Willy is arguing is if someone started rebroadcasting Netflix on Twitch 24/7, no one can look at that and say, well, that's clearly copyright infringement and should be taken down, until someone at Netflix can look at their analytics and determine like the exact amount of people who would have gone to Netflix but have now gone to Twitch instead. Like, how would you even begin? Like, I can't even conceptually understand what he's asking for here. The man is no joke saying, look, just because you can watch the video somewhere else in full with someone else doesn't mean it's a market substitute. So you can see how disingenuous Willy is being here. Whether or not something causes damages does not dictate whether something can act as a market substitute, which is what fair use assesses. Willy is perfectly aware that reactions to videos can impact the market for the original, and that is all that is necessary for you to fail that aspect of fair use. So he is well aware that ChudLogic video does not pass that aspect of fair use, and he just doesn't fucking care.
Here's the other thing with Viper. Every time someone has a critique of them, he claims that it's out of context when it's not.
This guy, who self-admittedly knew nothing about me or my content a few weeks before making this video,
like let's play stuff,
wants you to know that in my entire history, every single time anyone has criticized me for anything ever, my claim is it's always out of context. Why can't he just speak like a normal person? You know, sometimes when DarkViper is criticized, he claims things are out of context when they're not. But of course, he can't say this because he's a lying drama YouTuber. Again, the example he's just about to put on screen is from 3 fucking years ago. Hey guys, I'm gonna take this thing entirely out of context. He is so keen to poison you against this 14-page, meticulously argued document that he goes to the length of finding tweets out of context. He doesn't show the context.
And to say that I'm taking things out of context to poison the well is very disingenuous because I didn't take them out of context. I'll show you the whole context right here.
So you see guys, DarkViperAU sometimes claims that people take things out of context, but here's Charlie saying he didn't do that. But Charlie did do that. I'm now having defense statements from 3 years ago that are not relevant to fucking anything ever. And the thing I'm now arguing against is just Willy showing Charlie saying, nah-uh. It's like I'm back in the 5th fucking grade. 40 seconds in to Charlie's very first video 3 years ago, he jumps to page 7 of my draft, shows a random chunk of text on screen, then jumps to a picture half cut off of another paragraph on page 10, and then jumps away from my essay to random tweets on Twitter. What were the purposes of those references? What did they mean? Why did I write them? What point was I trying to show? It clearly wasn't what Charlie was saying about them, but because he removed all the context from my essay, just jumping around to random parts, obviously there was no context for those things. Charlie, even in the process of showing things out of context, doesn't even bother to read what he's showing on screen.
Yesterday, a YouTuber and streamer named DarkViperAU posted a 14-page document, which is the script for a video he's working on, all about how evil React content is, and it really heats up. This gets wild and wacky for the touchdown real quick.
Instead, Charlie opens and says, hey, these things happen real quick. This is halfway through the essay. This is on page 7.
There's a whole section in here where he basically compares reactors to sexual abuse criminals.
I do not make this comparison. In fact, the words sexual abuse and criminals don't even appear in the essay.
And insinuates that they'd be likely to spike your drink at a party.
At no point in time is there a serious point in my essay suggesting that reactors are going to spike your drink at a party. Depending on which one you're talking about, it's hyperbole, insult, or an analogy. But at no point are these literal statements. So not only was Charlie wrong explicitly, but he was also removing the context around these claims to pretend they were actual big arguments or something that this essay was seeking to prove.
Basically is comparing React content creators to rapists.
Even the word basically there is carrying a lot of weight, because obviously I didn't basically do that. I didn't do that at all. His phrasing implied that the main thrust of my essay was to argue that, hey, if you watch other people's YouTube videos, you are a rapist, which there is no interpretation of these words, especially within context where that is even within the ballpark of what I say. Like, it's very hard to argue he's not removing context while he's literally cutting in half entire paragraphs.
It's posting cringe on main that he truly believes and defends in the comments when someone called him out for it. He really doubles down, puts his nuts on the table and says, yeah, reactors are likely to commit sexual abuse.
Nowhere in these words is it possible to interpret them as, hey, reactors are likely to commit sexual abuse. Even his reading of the words showcases that it is not true.
He really doubles down, puts his nuts on the table and says, yeah, reactors are likely to commit sexual abuse.
The claim he makes and the words he reads are not the same. And as everyone pointed out at the time, and Charlie later admitted to, he missed the entire purpose of everything that I was writing.
Today's breakfast of champions that I'll be feasting on is some cereal with L's. I got the biblical smackdown laid on me by a YouTuber, and it's time to talk about it. I took a bit of an L+ ratio here. There was a lot of things that I got wrong.
And of course, Willy deceptively leaves out that Charlie was convinced by my arguments, at least to some degree, even years ago.
Now, we can argue on what's transformative and what's not, and that's also going to be an argument that needs to be had with the creator of the video that gets reacted to, because it's their content. You can't tell them what they should feel about it. However, I do fully concede that, sure, you can absolutely say there's no way of transforming a work that makes it wholly original if you're watching it in its entirety. I totally do understand that perspective, and now that Dark Viper has explained that perspective in this video, I understand it deeper now than I did from just reading the script. Which is why with this newfound understanding of this perspective, I will no longer be watching full YouTube videos on stream.
But let us now return to WillyMacShow misrepresenting Charlie, because seemingly he got bored of misrepresenting me.
And to say that I'm taking things out of context to poison the well is very disingenuous, because I didn't take them out of context. I'll show you the whole context right here.
The context of those words is the essay, and like the words around them, all of which Charlie didn't read, and he showed on screen for like a couple of seconds. Some of which he actually cropped off entirely, but none of which he bothered to read. He's just like, hey, this is what the essay is about, while not including any of the essay in his video, removing all the context. Understand, this isn't just what I think or something. This is the problem with Willy. He's implying that this is just something that I made up. This was the conclusion that many people reached when they actually looked at my essay and watched my video.
Dark Viper was a little heavy-handed in criticism. He used a lot of extreme examples, one of them regarding consent and whatnot. But, you know, at the end of the day, when I read his document, I almost sat down and just said, where's the lie? Dark Viper is not wrong.
Fuck, even Tom Dark at the time acknowledged that this is obviously true.
Now, Charlie rightfully called out some parts of this document, which I can understand his frustration with, but at the same time, I think the main issue with his response is the fact that he decided to cherry pick some parts of the document without acknowledging the big picture and the greater arguments being made. He kind of paints Dark Viper as this, like, unhinged maniac, when in reality, I think the worst I could say about that document is that, in my opinion, it had some very, very poor phrasing, it had some poor comparisons that did not need to be made, but the rest of it was pretty well done, and I kind of understood it. And it seems that a lot of people in the comments section have been saying that Critical kind of misrepresented the document as a whole, if you take a look at that. I like Critical, but he's either intentionally misrepresented or didn't understand most of Dark Viper's arguments against reaction content here. Reaction content can be beneficial to some original creators, but in the grand scheme of things, it always takes impressions, and thus views, away from most other original content creators. Even if one person gets a boost from a reaction video, there are still a lot of other creators who would have gotten some impressions if the the reactor didn't post their reaction video. I think people should read DarkViper's document or at least watch his response before coming to conclusions. Kinda feels like the argument of the document was missed, rather took extreme examples out of context to criticize the examples and not leading to the point itself. React content is kinda whack, it's not very transformative and takes away engagement from a creator's channel and any other potentially recommended channels after that.
And additionally, it was a problem when Charlie did it all the way back then, but Willy's done the exact same thing here. My claim was he took things out of context in regards to my essay, and Charlie's like, no, I didn't. Here's random replies on Twitter. And Willy's like, yeah, like DarkViperAU is claiming that things in his essay were taken out of context, but you can tell it's false because Charlie said it was false, and he showed random replies on Twitter. It's one thing for a person to 3 years ago do something that was a little bit dishonest. It was another thing for a person to, like, you know, in the present day, take that same dishonest thing and do it, but even more dishonest. Is impressive.
One of his fans pointed out their disappointment that he would compare React streamers to someone that would commit sexual abuse, and he argued with this person by saying that their behavior is similar to someone that would sexually abuse someone.
To people who go around in real life and drug and rape people, So
the second bit of evidence that Willy has that it wasn't taken out of context is a random clip of some guy saying that that's what I said? What? How is this an argument for anything?
People who go around in real life and drug and rape people, so...
I just wish every person who makes that claim would care enough to go back and read my old essay. And in the context of my original essay, these references are still perfectly fine. What you just saw Willy do was something he constantly does in all of his videos. He deceptively edited my words to suggest I was supporting something that I do not actually believe. And he knows I do not actually believe.
A few years ago, he made like this big post or whatever about React content which in it he essentially compared React streamers to people who go around in real life and drug and rape people, so...
I just wish every person who makes that claim would care enough to go back and read my old essay. Charlie apologized and we're cool now, but goddamn did it take me a really long time to get over how I'm going to have to listen to this bullshit repeated from people who have never read or listened to a single thing I've ever said on the topic. Hasan Piker will say things like, they do consent, they absolutely would consent. You know, if he imagines you consent, then you do. Or he'd say, if I had to ask for consent, then I couldn't do whatever I wanted whenever I wanted to. Or he will say, look, if the person finds out what I did, didn't like it, and later confronts me about it, I just won't do it again. That's basically consent, right? When I mock these statements and say, if you heard someone speaking like this, you'd cover your glass and move to the other side of the room, people act like I'm coming entirely out of left field, and the statements I am mocking are not absolutely fucked up, which goddamn, yes they are. I am sorry, but these statements deserve to be mocked, and the people making them are pieces of shit, and in the context of my original essay, these references are still perfectly fine. Would they have made it into the final cut? Probably not, it was after all a draft, but I would only have removed them to avoid knee-jerk reactions, not because these analogies fail to effectively highlight how fucked up these statements are. To be clear, I was mocking statements about ignoring consent, not drawing direct parallels between reaction content and sexual assault. This of course is not news to anyone who read the essay. If I wanted to say reaction content was the same as rape, I probably would have just done that. You know, the essay would have contained the words rape or sexual assault at least once. So obviously it's not a big surprise that Willy would deceptively edit this footage to make it seem like I'm saying something that I'm not. But removing that particular chunk of footage is in a way ironic considering I'm insulting Hasan during it. Hasan Piker that Willy has spent a dozen or so videos criticizing. So you might wrongly think that Willy would take any opportunity to showcase someone else criticizing Hasan, but it's important to remember that a lot of these people have been lying about me, calling me a bread YouTuber, a hyper-progressive, a leftist who's ranting about politics all the time. So showcasing the section where I'm critical of Hasan, hell, promoting the video where I'm hypercritical of Hasan would not fit with those lies. Basically, I'm trying to make the case that it is not simply one lie, but multiple different lies that could have inspired Willy to deceptively edit this footage.
Viper then says, I perhaps may have read more in regards to fair use than any person alive.
Willy even at the time acknowledged that I either mistyped or was speaking hyperbolically. Because when he quoted me in the DMs, he quoted me as saying, you know more than any person related to this case. He knew I was not actually making this claim. His highlighting of it here is entirely disingenuous. He knows this is not what I believe or what I actually said.
Then corrects himself to any person relating to this case.
Why highlight the false claim? This is implying that I had this thought and I was like, you know what, actually, maybe I'm wrong about that and changed it. But I'm a person who types fast and I just typed what I normally would type to any other person, you know, just some hyperbole. In a casual conversation, you're gonna be hyperbolic sometimes. But at this point, I'd realized that not a lot of people understand hyperbole, so I was actively trying to use it less. Do any of you right now think that for even a second in my entire life, I have ever thought that I actually understand more about fair use precedent than any person alive? The answer is no. So why highlight this? He is simply trying to frame things as best he can whenever he can to look as bad as possible, even when he knows he's being dishonest in doing so.
He then says he took down the reaction video not because of the content, but because it was a reaction video.
This entire time, you've been claiming I took it down because it was a critical video. You've implied all throughout that the critical nature of the video was important. Even in the description, you're like, he took down a critical video of him. Shouldn't you be arguing against this? Because as you know, you and your friends have constantly claimed that the nature of the video was important. But now in writing, when I've told you this is not true, you're not going to argue against it?
He then wraps up this anime-esque monologue by connecting it back to me calling him the fair use guy. And I'm like, but you are the fair use guy. You just said you know about it more than anyone else alive and you talk about it routinely.
Willy's special move, rapid fire lying. I didn't sincerely say that I know more about than any person alive. I do not speak about fair use routinely. But again, even if I did, speaking about something routinely is not sufficient for that moniker to apply. We have covered all this already.
When he filed a strike against Chud, he unnecessarily listed his credentials, even though it's not relevant to people filling out the form.
That of course is untrue, because this is not the DMCA form. In the DMCA form, there was literally no place I could have put this text. I was responding to the follow-up email that YouTube sent me, where they say, "We are concerned that your copyright notifications may not be valid for the videos listed below. Please keep in mind that in many countries it is legal to use copyrighted works in specific ways without the owner's authorization, particularly for transformative purposes such as news reporting, parody, commentary, or review. Some countries protect such uses under the doctrine of fair use or fair dealing, while others allow for specific exceptions to copyright protection. If you still believe your copyright is infringed by the YouTube videos identified below, please explain in detail why you think so. We ask that you provide more details than was included in your initial notice. Here are questions you may wish to consider." And then they list the questions that I answered directly. So the notice to me specifically asked, "Hey, have you considered fair use?" I said, "Yeah. I've read legal analysis on the precedent for fair use, and so I have considered fair use. I've done this other times, and this has been perfectly fine."
The fact that Matt is so mad that I called him the fair use guy is perfectly on brand for him.
I wasn't mad. I was bored. I was taking a break from my editing. I was like, hey, that's particularly stupid. And I had a conversation with a person that I barely knew, but who had for the last year and a half interacted positively with my content. So I found it very odd that he was making this false statement. I guess you could interpret my first statement as sounding aggressive, but I made it clear that I wasn't attacking him, and he made it clear that he wasn't attacking me either. This whole meta commentary, rewriting the history of these DMs to be like some vicious blow by blow, is just nonsense. At least that's not how I interpret it or how Willy seemed to interpret it at the time. Even if I was mad, this is truly the pot calling the kettle black. I insulted Willy one time by pointing out the obvious, that he sometimes talks out his ass about things that he knows nothing about. And this seems to be a significant motivating factor in him making this 41-minute video where he lied about every aspect of my life, where he's reinterpreting and lying about drama that's years past, going back to find clips that are 6, 7 years old. A private conversation with a person that I barely knew about something that they said that was incorrect is not insane. It's perfectly reasonable. But this shitfest where he lied for 41 minutes is obviously not reasonable. It's important to remember that Willy's claim is that he made this video to talk about ChudLogic getting his video struck. How much time have we actually spent talking about that? Like 2 minutes? And we're 25 minutes into his video. Clearly, Willy was far more interested in a targeted character assassination of me than he was in discussing anything that actually happened around me and ChudLogic.
It's like if you said Viper is the Lego guy, and when I said no, I'm not the Lego guy, you responded, why are you bringing up Lego right now in my DMs? Checkmate. Bro, if you made a 14-page essay about Lego and then wrote in my DMs that you know more about Lego than anyone else alive, I would call you the Lego guy.
He had not read my essay at the time when he called me the fair use guy, nor had this conversation happened, and therefore it cannot be justification for him calling me that in the first place. And to point out the obvious, I didn't write a 14-page essay about fair use. The lengths that Willy has gone to misunderstand language, to lie about our conversation, to lie at the time, to defend this thing that he knows he had no right to say, because he had no justification for it. He was just talking out his ass.
Bro, if you made a 14-page essay about Lego and then wrote in my DMs that you know more about Lego than anyone else alive, I would call you the Lego guy. He'd make a video and repeat this without showing any of the context of him calling himself a fair use expert.
1, that's not what the video was about. 2, what happened in our DMs couldn't be the reason why you tweeted this because the DMs happened after. 3, I never called myself a fair use expert. In my work, multiple times, I have specifically laid out that my criticism of reaction content has nothing to do with fair use. Willy here showcases how none of these people had any interest in watching even one of the videos I've made outlining my thoughts on this topic. He obviously had not done that at the time. And even now, it is inconceivable that he's watched my modern work on this topic, or else why would he only be referencing a draft rather than the actual completed essay? Again, it's hard to know if he's actually read it and simply excluding all the information for various nefarious reasons, but it makes more sense that he hasn't read it, or else, as I said at the start, like another 20 or 30 things are lies rather than things he simply didn't know about. And it's also not realistic to think that he had watched my videos but was also entirely unaware of the kind of content that I make. And again, remember that Willy was so ignorant of my content that he didn't know I make content about GTA 5. A game that I've played for 12,000 hours and made, including clips, probably over 10,000 videos. Yet even despite being aware of their ignorance, they don't care. They still make claims like this one.
I did watch your original video and read your essay. Again, the only reason I called you the fair use guy is because you argue against it with React content.
That is not what that designation means, you moron. I actually DM'd WillyMacShow and said, what the fuck are you talking about? I'm clearly not the fair use guy. He should not said, bro, if you're not the fair use guy, why are you in my DMs talking about fair use? Which he did. That is what he said.
Am I crazy? He did call himself an expert in fair use.
Literally did not call myself an expert in fair use.
He knows more than anyone else related to this case.
Knowing more than ChudLogic about something does not make me an expert.
He did call himself an expert in fair use. He knows more than anyone else related to this case. I wish you shared that DM.
Why would I do that? This was like an offhand reference, like halfway into a video that had no bearing on anything I was talking about. It was only tangentially brought up because Chud lied and said that I was in everyone's DMs trying to defend myself, which was obviously not true. And the only person I talked to about it, other than Carl, was Willy. Because someone referenced that apparently I was doing damage control about the whole thing in people's DMs, when obviously that wasn't true. I DM very few people for any reason. So it was very easy to know that this person was speaking about me DMing WillyMac. I felt that kind of like a bit of a betrayal, that I can't just DM a person out of the blue and have a chat or something without it becoming like a discussion of some knitting circle or something. Not only was he the only possible candidate, Willy had retweeted some misinformation, some bullshit from ChudLogic before. If this was a major point of the video, yeah, I would have spent more time on it, but it wasn't significant at all. Please acknowledge how insane it is how long Willy spent dissecting these fucking DMs as if they were significant, or harping on this, 30 seconds of my video about the ChudLogic situation as if it was particularly significant. It's utterly bewildering how much of a hissy fit he has thrown over like 30 seconds, all because he talked out of his ass about something he clearly knew nothing about. None of these people, when wanting to understand my positions or why I was doing what I was doing, thought to look at the entire series that explains exactly that. I sincerely cannot fathom that level of stupidity or indifference to the truth.
I have now watched all of Viper's React content series, and it is just the same video reposted over and over again with no new data or findings.
The statement I was making there was about the past, when not even Willy had seen this series. And as I argue, he has not seen it even now. Because each of those videos I made did include new data, new examples, new analyses, new arguments. Quite literally, it required additional tabs in a spreadsheet with new data to explain new points. If Willy actually has seen these videos, this would mean that he consciously decided to ignore all my current views of reaction content, go back 3 years, and largely just analyze a draft for an essay that was actually completed, which he ignored entirely for this video, to make claims that are specifically debunked in those videos. So what Willy is trying to argue here is, rather than one big lie, that he actually looked through this playlist. Instead, he made like 30 small lies, knowing that throughout his video, the points he were making were entirely refuted, the questions he asked were entirely answered, but instead he just ignored this, and I do not believe that.
Viper would give his reasoning for striking Chud, saying that it's not because of the criticism or the hate, but because React content in principle is immoral.
And so Willy finally admits the truth, that it had nothing to do with it being critical, yet he implies that this is the case throughout the entire fucking video. It's like if he said throughout the entire video, DarkViperAU struck this video with a person in it wearing glasses, implying that I don't like people wearing glasses. It is just dishonest framing. Framing, glasses, get it? Huh. To give a very, very brief summary, my issues are with the market impact of reaction content. We have two groups of people, reactors and creators, but only one of these puts forth effort and incurs risk and cost. If you didn't recognize it, Willy here is showing a small snippet of the section where I summarize my own views that I showed previously. This is the summation he knew existed, yet he specifically excluded in favor of his own misrepresentation of my views. We have two groups of people, reactors and creators, but only one of these puts forth effort and incurs risk and cost.
I already showed why I disagree with him.
Why cut off my summary? Why is this not at the beginning? I know it's hard to follow, but so much of what happens in Willy's video contradicts other parts of the video, as if he made one part, found more stuff, and then simply kept adding, forgetting that what he was adding is contradicting things he said previously. I think this is what happens when you handwrite your scripts. You can't just like move things around easily. So you've got this jumble where earlier Willy is claiming some things about my positions, but now admitting later that those aren't my positions. It is just a mess.
But he believes it, and he was willing to take it to court, and Viper has every legal right to do that.
Which means that my use of DMCA isn't abusive, and that I'm not in the wrong, and I've done nothing wrong. So why does this video exist? I am not beholden to act in accordance with Willy's insane views of the world. Willy's entire stance on me striking ChudLogic is simply, you know, I wouldn't do it. Why should I care about that? He feels people should act this way, and therefore everyone should just do so. He doesn't argue why this is in my best interest or anyone else's best interest. It's like, well, he wants you to act this way, so you should. Complete nonsense. This video has no fucking purpose, which Willy seemed to have realized, which is why he's padded it with so much garbage. You think the garbage is over, but holy shit, it has not even begun.
I just don't think this case lines up with his moral reasoning.
A few weeks before you made this video, you didn't even know what content I made. How the fuck do you think you're an expert on my own moral stances?
I just don't think this case lines up with his moral reasoning.
It seems that DarkViperAU, a person most motivated to act in accordance with his own values, has acted a particular way. But me, WillyMacShow, who knows nothing about DarkViperAU, you know what? Actually, I think his actions contradict with his stances.
Chud doesn't have money to go to court, so he had to take the video down.
A few dozen issues here. Chud was perfectly willing to violate my copyright when he clearly didn't need to do this. He could have criticized my video in a way that was entirely ethical, that would not violate fair use, that I could not strike, but he was just too fucking lazy.
Do you know what? I quite like reacting to videos of people that I know don't like React content. It's always fun for me. 2, he could still go to court. If he thinks his case is so fucking strong, he can fundraise some money from his audience, or you guys can bankroll him. You guys seem to believe I'm in the wrong. More than this, Chud didn't take down the video, it was struck down. A strike, mind you, that was only possible because he left the video up when the strike didn't go through the first time. Chud knew what he was doing was illegal. He knew for certain that I had an ethical problem with what he was about to do. He did it anyway. He dodged a bullet. Copyright strike didn't go through. He left the video up. And so it seems as though at every single stage, Chud has specifically been taking like a pole and just bashing himself in the head. And Willy is trying so hard to blame me for Chud's stupidity. Everything that's happened was entirely avoidable. Chud could have had every ounce of value that he tried to have initially if he was just less lazy. Do you know what's most funny about all this? As Chud himself has said, the copyright strike elapses in 3 months. Oh, I'm just going to leave it. Tank the copyright strike. Yeah, it goes away after 3 months.
The punishment is so minor. But despite this, still, even after the copyright strike has left his channel, still whining 4 months, has not stopped. Mentioned to me in his content on both these channels combined thousands of times. Whining, throwing the biggest, longest hissy fit of any creator I've ever seen. Specifically asked his viewers to dig into every aspect of my life, to follow everything that I do on every social media, to catalog this information to feed it back to him, where I was then doxxed. And all this, Willy is like, yes, this makes perfect sense. Chud the reasonable. The level of dishonesty that Willy presents in this video is utterly insane. It is psychotic. And Willy still hasn't stopped. Countless tweets, plans for more videos, all because Chud was lazy and fucked up. And the level of lies that Willy has had to put forth to defend this is utterly insane.
But then Viper inarguably started to falsely copyright strike people. He admitted to abusing the DMCA system when it comes to unfavorable clips of him.
Since this clip has once again been brought up on Twitter by someone who's disingenuous, whatever, I've now said about striking this video. I in no way want to suggest that I've experienced the worst of what people can do with clipping things out of context, often for money. But very recently, the story from Valkyrie talks about the problem. There was this Twitter account, Rapid Clips, who was posting things like this. Valkyrie talks about the time where she was involved in a gangbang and how she enjoyed it. And then there's a 22-second clip here. But of course, Valkyrie wasn't talking about anything like that. It only sounds that way when taken out of context and given this false title. Not really sure how to deal with out-of-context clips with insane titles. Here's an example of when I was sharing an experience going to an all-female onsen in Japan with friends. I get people are just trying to make a few bucks with the logo and stuff, but the hate I've received because of lies has been insane. So it wasn't just this one posting, of course. There were dozens of these things. I would show you more, but fortunately, this account was taken down. And this seems to have been done by Valkyrie and her lawyers, and good on her for doing so.
When I saw this, I've been seeing a ton of sexualized clips like this on Twitter for the past few months. But this one was so off topic, I was baffled.
What's interesting about this particular instance is this Rapid Clips person did the exact same thing Willy did. just forgets to mention how old the clips are, makes up a fake context, and then money. I suppose the weirdest general fake context that Willy kept giving for any of the out of context clips he was showing was he kept saying that they were just like normal, mundane, everyday clips, while in reality, every one of those clips was a very unique situation with a long backstory with 1,000 different variables, huge outliers in my life. But every time he'd post one of the clips, he'd either say outright or imply, this is just a normal, mundane clip, man. Picked it up last week, don't ask questions, man.
I was reading the comments and like people just like want to believe it. These people that just like hate me or hate girls, hate women.
That is just the nature with content creators. I've experienced it myself. I am more likely to believe negative things about Hasan than anyone else, because I don't like him. It's part of the shame I feel towards Willy's content that I blindly accepted things because I didn't like Hasan. I promoted one of Willy's videos all the way back then. It likely had all the same issues that Willy's video on me had, but because it was Hasan, I was like, oh well, you know, Hasan's an asshole. He was wrong with me. But I see this now all the time. All the viewers of this little crew of liars have been so poisoned against me. It doesn't matter what Willy claims in the future, what actual evidentiary basis he has for it. He could claim that I, for fun, take puppies and chuck them against walls, and it will be believed by a significant amount of people, because they just don't like me. Every creator experiences this, but in my earlier career, people didn't like me for things I actually said or did. People wouldn't like me for my political positions that I actually held. People wouldn't like my content as a matter of taste, and this is all fine. But so much of people not liking me now has nothing to do with anything I've said or done. It has just been stuff generated by people looking to get engagement by making up shit about me. Either that or directly spreading things that sound salacious and just not caring whether it's true or false.
I know a lot of people are like, oh, you should sue. And I am gonna have a conversation with a lawyer just to see what it all means, what can be done. Is there a way to move the needle in a way where this behavior can, you know, not go on? Because it is damaging. And I'm not gonna lie, it's damaging in a way where it has affected people's opinions on me. It's affected business things. It's affected a lot.
Valkyrie is bringing up one of the issues I have with the idea of suing Willy and Chud for the very obviously illegal things that they've done in relation to me and my brand. But at the end of the day, the incentive structures that have caused them to become what they are on social media would still exist and therefore would just inspire people to take their place. Sure, I would get some money back for the damage that they've done to my brand, the time of mine that they've wasted, but there will just be another one the next week and the week after. The situation with Valkyrie showcases the problem with the idea of social sanctions in regards to social media, that social media can self-police itself. The reason why channels like Rapper Clips exist is because it's a successful business model. It is a fairly common position that out of context clips are bad, that misrepresenting things is bad, that lying to people for money is bad. But these are still successful business strategies in social media, because as long as there's enough people who will watch the content, it doesn't matter. Whether it be because not enough people care, or think it's funny even when they do find out, or simply never find out, it doesn't matter. As long as there's enough money coming in, these things will still exist to some degree. In the same way that Willy was perfectly willing to be so dishonest and act in ways that so many people would condemn if they found out, but he knows he doesn't have to care because most people will never find out. It will still be a profitable mechanism for making money for him. So he will go on being dishonest, making more videos just like this one, and it's never gonna matter what I say or what my viewers say when they stumble across this video and go, oh, this is all lies, what the fuck? As long as he has enough people who will click his videos and not realize they're false, or simply not care when they find out, he will have a successful business model. No amount of people from the outgroup complaining will ever change that. There's just not enough sanctioning power in the social of social media.
But then Viper arguably started to falsely copyright strike people. He admitted to abusing the DMCA system when it comes to unfavorable clips of him.
Willy, I'm sorry to break this to you. Every action that's done in the world that you personally wouldn't do isn't abusive. The DMCA system exists to take down content like this. Whatever my motivation, it doesn't matter. If you want to repost someone else's content, you're meant to ask for a license. And if anyone does any unauthorized redistribution of anyone else's copyrighted work, you know who decides whether or not they should be taken down? For any reason? The copyright holder. Willy in this next section cannot even present an argument as to why it's abusive to take down copyrighted material that people have no right to use, and certainly isn't fair use. But he will simply label it as abuse because he has no arguments for the position he's espousing.
So people start making fun of him, using old clips of him getting unironically angry while playing Among Us.
He runs around the entire fucking map to come to O2, and I'm like, I had nothing to say. I was literally speechless. I did not speak that entire time because I was so confused why we were still in the game. Now I'm just gonna ban Scott forever because I'm gonna associate this with Scott for the rest of my fucking life. Just in case Willy ever wants to imply he was impartial when making this video, this second clip he's showing, I didn't even know existed. I found out it existed from Chud. Chud is the person and his viewers who got this clip. While other clips he's shown did exist on archive.org, this one didn't. Willy, impartial, has not made up his mind. Somehow, all the information he's getting is from Chud. You know, it's almost like Willy doesn't have any real positions, and so his videos just become a mouthpiece for whatever position Willy thinks will get him the most money and growth. So you remember when iShowSpeed accidentally showed his cock on stream and they took down all those clips? Like, you can't find those clips anymore. His management team were like, okay, well, people have no right to show this young guy's cock all over social media. We're gonna copyright strike all those clips because no one has any right to those clips. Now, I'm sure Willy would argue that was an abuse of the copyright system. Even though no one had any right to show those clips and Speed had a very good reason to take down those clips, he would just say, nah, it's abuse. This clip is used out of context to misrepresent that situation in a way that didn't happen. To suggest, as Willy has lied many times in this video, that I'm a constantly angry person. This clip exists in my own work, showed many times with the context of why this happened. Anyone who wants to see it could easily link to it in my own work, but it would contain the context of why this happened. There is no reason to use this clip in isolation that does not exist for the purpose of misinformation. I was going through a very trying time, a medical issue at the time. Willy can't argue against this. He will say, sure, it is misinformation. Sure, it is being used for a nefarious purpose. It is specifically just to spread hate on the internet and to falsely misrepresent me and the situation at the time. Why would anyone go out of their way to defend such a thing? And the answer simply is, Willy is a bad person. All the things he has defended throughout this video is not for the benefit of other people. He can't make arguments to say why this clip existing or me not acting as I am is better for other people or better for me. He just says, I don't think you should do this because it would either be better for him personally if I didn't, or he simply says it's wrong because he wants something to argue about. He is just being contrarian.
So people start making fun of him, using old clips of him getting unironically angry while playing Among Us. Matt's response is to strike the video because it's out of context.
The clip of me raging can be seen in full multiple times in the videos where I talk about this case. Give the context that of course Willy explicitly excluded, that the people who watch Willy's video do not know. Willy of course can't even bring himself to give the context of when this fucking happened, causing all his viewers to spam me as if this happened last week. As I keep saying, it is hard to comprehend the level of dishonesty that Willy showcases in this video. And if you're still watching, anyone who actually watches his content, it is not conceivable that this level of dishonesty is exclusive to this video. Since this clip has once again been brought up on Twitter by someone who's disingenuous, whatever, I've now said about striking this video. I don't want to.
But you're gonna anyway.
The only reason why people have this clip and it became widely distributed 4 years after the events happened, when there was no drama because it got settled pretty much immediately, is because the person who had the clip, I didn't strike. I tell this story in one of my rambles, and of course, Willy ignores this again. I did not strike the clip. I went through every avenue possible to not have to issue a strike. I just couldn't get in touch with him. So I issued the 7-day takedown notice specifically to get his email. And the reason I went through this avenue was because clearly the first instance where this clip was posted on YouTube wasn't for any nefarious purpose. It was just some dude who found the clip funny, maybe from live stream fails or a fan of mine, as it actually turned out to be. The fan and I had a conversation. He was like, oh, I actually forgot I had the clip. No worries, bro, I'll take it down, and didn't receive a strike. And by filing that 7-day strike thing, they actually got back to me. And so this story has a happy ending. Hey Viper, saw the takedown. I uploaded that clip like 3 years ago when I was 15. I honestly forgot it was even up. I'm sorry the clip being up caused this much drama. Keep up your work. Hope to see more speedrun stuff soon. I said, thanks mate, sorry for the bother, and thanks for watching my stuff. All good. I know you didn't mean anything by it. And so we talked in DMs a bit, and I asked him if I could share the DMs, so. Hey mate, sorry to reach out to you out of the blue, but is there any chance you can take down this clip? I never saw this DM, sorry man, like I put in the Discord and in the comments on YouTube. I was like 14 or 15 in the middle of quarantine, just uploading it for giggles. It's funny because I've seen you talk about the clip, and I had forgotten I even had it uploaded. I'm sorry that it's caused a shit show. I never wanted to contribute to online mobs. Just want you to know it wasn't malicious or anything. If I remember right, I ripped it straight from the livestream fails Reddit post and posted it. So yeah, keep up the good work, man. Couldn't care less about the likes or anything. If it helps clear misinformation and it being spread out of context, then it should be down. If I saw this before, I would have done it myself. And of course, if you go to the original link for the clip, it says the video has been removed by the uploader, not that it was struck down by me. Willy's arguing that I should be benevolent, magnanimous to people who are only doing something specifically to hurt me. They have no legal right to do it, and I would argue the specific intent of fomenting outrage, negativity, misrepresentation are things that are immoral. I'm sure Willy disagrees with this. I'm sure he thinks misinformation, out of context clips, spreading negativity, spreading hate are great things for society. It is ultimately what he does for a living. But as it's obviously unlawful, and I argue it's immoral, why would I not stop this? What's the argument? Willy can't argue I'm trying to hide this information. It's in the fucking videos. It's on my iceberg to be covered when I make that video. It is an interesting part of my career that I'm not trying to hide, but I am trying to stop people misrepresenting it and taking it out of context. And certainly for people like Willy, not even being willing to say when it happened. When Repsion posted this clip on Twitter, Even just a brief explanation of why this clip exists, Ray showed him easily. Lorsch says, so we're bringing this clip back again. And I said, I think it communicates a level of desperation and how little people have to work with if this clip from 4 years ago is the level they sink to, honestly. Which Das says, it's fucking funny. Learn to laugh at yourself instead of taking things so seriously. Which said, this is incredibly ironic considering you're pinned. So much for growth, huh? So his pinned comment says, we have settled, please see the statement below. This is within the last 6 months. Daniel, Jane, and Maya have resolved our various legal claims against one another. Dealing with the aftermath of a relationship is a highly emotional and volatile time in a person's life, and dwelling in that dark place isn't helpful for anyone's personal growth or emotional development. We appreciate all the support and investment in our lives, but wish to keep this matter private and behind closed doors. The last 2 years have been emotionally draining, and we hope you will understand that it is best to move forward without dwelling in the past. We wish Maya the best in her future endeavors. Thank you. And this dude is bringing up 4-year-old clips from very tumultuous, bad times in my life and attempting to attack me using them. Yeah, it's hypocritical. Even people who hated me underneath were like, wait, this clip is 4 years old? This is a nothing burger. Why the fuck is this being posted now? And the answer is pure malice. So somehow in Willy's mind, using a tool specifically as it's intended to be used to prevent abuse is itself abuse. The mental gymnastics of this man, out of this world. I've now set about striking this video. I don't want to.
But you're gonna anyway.
So Willy here says, but I'm going to anyway. But he watches the video, which shows that I don't strike the video. It's taken down by the person who posted it in the first place, entirely amicably. What's weird about this is I have struck other people who have reposted this clip, spread by people who just keep reposting it unaltered, unchanged, seemingly usually the people who were in that thread who doxed me. So he could point to those and talk about those. But Willy can't help but lie. Well, people want to paint me as this DMCA hungry guy. That's generally speaking not me. But I just think this clip is just contributing to misinformation. And I don't think I have some moral obligation to contribute or to allow misinformation.
It's not out of context or misinformation.
A 30-second clip of a live stream is, by its nature, out of the context of the live stream. A person watching this clip is obviously not going to be aware of all the context of what was happening around the clip. What you want to say, Willy, is that the context is irrelevant, and therefore it not being included doesn't matter. But every time I explain the context, anywhere this clip is posted, people go, oh, I didn't know that. This changes everything, because the context does matter. Because Willy wants to say it's so on brand for him to get angry. Here is a clip from 4 years ago when this guy was diagnosed with an incurable disease, was taking medication, was open and honest about feeling shit that day, was not sleeping. This is who DarkViperAU is.
And he's always been this way, spazzing out and banning supporters for not being good at Among Us.
You are yourself working to present a false picture of that situation and me currently. You are a purveyor of misinformation. This clip does not mean the same thing in context as it does outside of it. Just asserting it's not out of context isn't an argument.
It's not out of context or misinformation.
The base claim that Willy makes with these out-of-context clips is that they showcase mundane situations that showcase my attitude and actions in everyday life. He therefore necessarily had to dishonestly remove the context from these clips because the context clearly shows that interpretation is not valid. Willy's foundational claim is therefore a lie and his presentation of these clips is clearly dishonest. Think of the explanations I gave in the previous part about the clips that Willy presented. Do any of them sound like mundane situations? In this clip, I thought I had lost something I had spent over a year working towards in my career that I was very passionate about, technically worth $100,000. This clip came from many years of issues, culminating in a coup in a speedrunning community I had spent 5,000 hours building over the past half decade. This clip happened fairly recently after I'd been diagnosed with an incurable disease and was on medication and was not sleeping. Do these sound like normal, mundane situations to you that you can look at as representative of my everyday life and attitude to most things? Willy is clearly being dishonest by removing this context that clearly matters, or at least would matter to some people. Those some people being people who are honest.
It's not out of context or misinformation.
Willy and his friends have spent months fabricating a fake personality, fake career, and fake life, and then attributing my name to it. All this seemingly to sell to their audience for money and engagement. This level of insane, year-long obsession is not normal. The level of deranged things they've done, like trying to associate my brand with HIV, and calling on their viewers to dig into every part of my life, leading to me being doxxed. Any person would seek to clear their name, even in some small way if they could. Willy, of course, will simply lie about everything. He'll claim it's a mundane situation, a normal one that everyone experiences all the time, that every person would be perfectly okay with, and therefore would never express anger. Because at the end of the day, the biggest threat to Willy's place on YouTube is reality itself. He therefore must fight it tooth and nail as much as he can, or else cease to be.
It's not out of context or misinformation, but even if it was, that's not what the DMCA system is for.
Yes, motherfucker, it is. A DMCA notice is valid as long as there is infringement on a person's copyright. An unaltered posting of a clip of my content is obviously that. If you want to redistribute someone's content, you are meant to get a license, to get permission. In the same way that I have the rights to give permission to anyone for any reason that I want to, I can take down any infringing content for any reason that I want to.
You're abusing it because you're embarrassed of these clips. That's wrong. People start goofing on him by posting an old clip of him saying the N-word, and he strikes it too because he's embarrassed.
This man has seen none of my content. A major focus of my content is making me look stupid, making me look like a fool.
Even with context, I can be a bit weird sometimes, but if you take me out of context, you're just in time to see me take pictures of an underage girl. Ha! Come in his ear! Let me see your penis, random stranger. And you're like, Mom, Dad, we've been here for hours! Let me out! Like, nah! Bite me, sir. Harder, Daddy. I can seem bloody insane.
Try not to come. You won't last 40 seconds playing this game.
Oh, it's all over me. Ah. Give me more of the white stuff. You've all received my milk. Are they gonna come? Why can I not make them come? I mean, people said it would make me into a murderer, but I was a murderer before I started playing GTA 5. Why would you want to see everything when you're having sex with a 2 out of 10 prostitute? Ideally, you want to see less. Stop touching my face. Democracy ruins everything. Fuck my son. It's not hard. It is hard. I know all the location for the prostitutes, chat. Slept with a lot of prostitutes in that alley. The age-old question, chat, is it gay to have sex with yourself? Asking for a friend. There's a lot of ass pushing in this run these days, because ass pushing is fun. I've always wanted to get into a VTuber, like, wait. Every embarrassing story from my life I've told. People have laughed at me for things I've done as a focus of my work. That is who I am. This clip, however, is taken out of context to misrepresent me maliciously, to spread misinformation. It was spread when specifically one guy did something morally and legally wrong, and to get revenge on me exercising my rights, decided to spread maliciously these clips.
I will be looking up as much as I possibly can of this guy, and I'm going to be finding every single thing he's ever done that's embarrassing, and I'll be broadcasting it and talking about it.
And Willy's like, yes! This is a good thing for Chud to do. Everyone should do this, man. Spread negativity, harm, malice. Get vengeance. Because this is what he does for a career. He would realize how hypocritical it is for him to take a stance against these things, because he would be out of a job. These are bad things. They do not make the world a better place. The legal system exists to prevent this kind of stuff, to make society better, hopefully.
People start goofing on him by posting an old clip of him saying the N-word.
I gave him a weapon.
Bullshit. Willy in this video has been so afraid for his monetization that he has removed every swear word. He won't even say words like rape.
In this case, great.
Then he looks at this clip that is a clear brand risk that can impact my business, of which dozens of people rely on for an income. And he sees me taking it down. He's like, this must be embarrassment. He knows this isn't true, because in my video on ChudLogic, I explained why I took down this clip.
Let's now go to Michael's house to do, again, some random bullshit. Oh, he's back in the city.
It's not a big deal, but maybe we just keep this between you and me.
Let me do this. This one. I gave him a weapon.
Nigga, bullshit.
Bullshit. Wait. I said it with an A. Fuck. I was just mimicking what he said. God damn it. Oh no. I think contextually, and that it was with an A, I should be okay, chat. I'm not resetting the stream, but you ain't gonna see that on YouTube. Oh no. It's just instinct to mimic what they say. God damn it. Oh no. Oh no. Let's see what mission this is. I'll be honest with you, I still find that clip very funny, even though I do recognize that it is a risk to my brand. Now understand, when I played that clip in my video, I showed the entire thing, the context, that it was clearly a mistake. But other people didn't have this interest. They took this clip and had it as short as possible, often just zooming in onto my webcam to just have me saying the M-word. And Willy, of course, like, yes, this is wonderful. This is adding to discourse. This is amazing. This is exactly what society should be. Because Willy doesn't have any arguments as to why me acting differently would be better for other people. He just asserts I shouldn't do it. But he has no arguments as to why this is the case.
Other than that, he himself wouldn't do this, which again, no one has to care about unless you can justify it. But he has to imply it's embarrassment, even though I'm a live streamer who embarrasses himself every fucking day and have done so for a fucking decade, who specifically posts embarrassing pictures of himself all over social media. We'll show some of them on screen. Embarrassing myself, saying stupid things, doing stupid things. That is like a significant portion of my content. Smells like cum, chat. That's weird. Tarwin Blue. Berry Creek cheese. Oh, it's blue cheese? I don't know. It got a bit on me. Oh, Lord. I'll try anything, chat. Anything. Like, you put it in front of me, I'll be like, yeah, like balls, testicles, yeah, give me, I'll take them. This is pushing me my limit. Live streaming is where inhibitions go to die. Eventually, you either kill your inhibitions and you become more outspoken, more bombastic or whatever, or you just fail. When I do something cringe or say something stupid or weird or whatever, I want that in the video because I think it's half the comedy is just like random shit that I say sometimes. And even when jokes don't land or whatever, I find that funny. I've had situations where, especially newer people who are editing for me, they'll send me like, oh, should I include this? I'm like, yeah. That's funny. I look stupid. Leave it.
Yeah.
If Rockstar put in GTA 6 a whiny dude who was yelling 14 pages every 16 seconds, as I am satirized to be, I would find that hilarious and just roll with the punches, right? And I hope everyone treats it the same and doesn't take it too serious, right? Speaking of pictures of me, there is a perfect meme that just came out on my subreddit. From Mikobo. I think he needs a little more selfie training. Every time someone else takes a photo of Matt, me looking like a normal person, looking maybe even a little bit handsome, looking pretty good, Matt taking a photo of himself. Looking fucking drugged out, crazy, random colors. This is intentional. If it's not obvious from my content, I mock and embarrass myself because I find it funny, and so do other people. Being embarrassed is never my concern. People lying about me to hundreds of thousands of people, oh yeah, I get concerned about that shit. As you know, would anyone on the planet.
And ChudLogic puts more effort into his reaction video than Viper did in his original video.
As I established before, this is obviously false. Could you imagine how dishonest you have to be to argue that watching a YouTube video constitutes effort at all? Oh, we don't understand the suffering of ChudLogic, how he slaves to press the pause button and speak off the top of his head. You don't understand. You work in that 9 to 5. Willy's like, no, the suffering that Chud is experiencing, no, it's nothing compared to your job. He's the effort he's putting in to hit the play button and then pauses sometimes and go, huh, that's funny. You don't understand the effort. Editing a video, having some sort of structure to record things intentionally, to edit them and eventually get posted with a high quality thumbnail. No, you don't understand. Can we put a disclaimer on screen to say that I'm being funny and this is just hyperbole?
He strikes it on principle of it being react content.
Unfortunately, Willy, that is how copyright works. No one is legally required to give permission or give a license to goddamn anyone for any reason.
But when people post only the necessary clip, he strikes it because it's out of context.
Necessary for what? If inspired by malice, someone wants to spread misinformation or cause harm, why should they be allowed to, if it can be prevented? Prevented legally, with no abuse. Willy can't defend this. He doesn't even try.
But when people post only the necessary clip, he strikes it because it's out of context. In short, I think this is the last guy I want in favor arguing for copyright. He's emotionally blinded. His ideas aren't well thought out. He engages with criticism poorly, discrediting critics by using semantics, and speaks as if his opinions are based in fact when they're not.
I spent months doing research, tabulating data, writing essays, presenting my beliefs in the most calm, consumable way possible. I made the first video where I established why I was there and what I sought to prove. In the second video, I presented arguments and evidence for my conclusions. In the following videos, I added to this, but I also counted arguments against my perspective and counted opposing views. How many people do you know who go to this kind of effort that care this much about having some justification for their positions? The effort I put into that series is almost unheard of on YouTube. Willy, on the other hand, ignorant of every aspect about me, every aspect of my content, throws together a video in a couple of weeks where he makes every claim under the sun, purely out of emotion. The entire base for his video is, hey, I don't believe this, so no one should either. And he judges me. It is a fierce contest, but I think that was the most stupid thing he said in this video.
He engages with criticism poorly, discrediting critics by using semantics.
This, of course, is a claim that Willy never established, and a claim on its face that even just looking at the length of the videos, you must know is false. But I say again, semantics do actually matter. The meanings of words matter. If you're writing an essay, the initial parts will often talk about semantics. What you mean by particular words. Communication is hard. As we're about to see later, Willy misunderstands some semantics and therefore reaches entirely wrong conclusions.
And speaks as if his opinions are based in fact when they're not.
My videos, of course, contain many different facts that I work very hard to establish, that I argue for, that I give evidence for, that I show data directly representing mathematically. Again, not to get into the weeds of philosophy, I don't think there are objective values outside of as they relate to goals. Willy presents himself as having the goal of benefiting himself to the detriment of everyone else, to spreading hatred, misery, negativity. If he values doing this and doesn't value the well-being of other people, then there is much of what I say in my series that is entirely irrelevant to him. Most of what my series seeks to establish is that reactors are not acting in other people's best interests, and the effect they have is harmful to everyone else. It's not a fact that you have to care about other people. It's not a fact that you should value creativity. It's why the series doesn't argue for an ethical framework. I expressed this specifically at the beginning of my main essay.
Over the last few months, I've learned that very few people seem to understand why React content is harmful. Keep in mind that I consider my personal standard for what is justifiable to be fairly irrelevant. I'm not a moral authority. This video's purpose is not to be an argument for an idea of how society should function or what action should be permissible on what basis, although it may initially appear to be that. So confident am I that the current state of affairs would be considered abhorrent by the vast majority if it was understood, that all I seek to do with this video is give people the bigger picture which they may otherwise not have known about. That the biggest problem I see is that people do not understand what reactors are doing and the effect that they have. That if people knew about it, then more people would be outraged. And my experiences since writing that series has shown that to be absolutely true. The amount of people who've reached out to me and said I've changed their minds, that their opinion of reactors has decreased. Some of this later I will be showing. But to counter all this, what does Willy say? Hey, I'm not going to show you his arguments. I'm not going to show you his data. Hell, I'm going to pretend they don't even exist. Hey, it's hours of semantics, guys. And how did he demonstrate that? By lying about a situation from 3 years ago. Is there anyone dumb enough to actually believe him? And if you do, I implore you, just watch the main video in my series. If even by the end you disagree with me, you will know for a fact that Willy is lying.
And speaks as if his opinions are based in fact when they're not.
It is just annoying that he doesn't explain at all why there could be some small impact that he's unable to see.
Bruh, I wish you'd reflect on that.
Who am I talking about in that clip? Why am I saying that? You don't know, because it is just an out of context clip. There is literally a large section of my main essay dedicated to talking about the small positive effect that reaction content can have, and then contextualizing it as to why it doesn't matter. It's one of the endless examples in Willy's video where he says I haven't done something when I've dedicated a considerable amount of time to doing exactly that. So that is where I think we'll end this part of the video. Trust me, as bad as it's been so far, it just goes downhill from here. I know that's hard to believe, but I assure you it's true. Thank you to anyone who got to the end of this video, especially thanks to those who actually think Willy ever communicates honestly. I too was fooled once. All of us will at some point be fooled by a con artist. Again, thank you for watching, and I wish you all the best. Just in case it wasn't obvious, there is another part, and trust me, Willy is even worse in the next part. I know that's hard to believe, but it's true.